All right, everybody, please, nice and quiet, please. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Okay. Thank you. Thank you everybody for coming. I apologize for the confusion and stuff. New place, and again, new situation that we have. So, I want to wish everybody, I hope the summer was good. Welcome to the Holy Cross Greek Orthodox Church. I want to thank Father Joe. He was the one that stepped up. We had a very difficult time trying to get locations. Josh can tell you, because he was looking for the secondary site for us, which is over in the Korean Center for Services, Community Services for us. And it was very hard just to find places. This one has where we could do, again, the public meeting, and I thank everybody for it. I'm sorry for the late start on it, and we'll get started. I just think we have to do one. Let's start out with the Pledge of Allegiance. Our flag is up here. If you'll all please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing one moment. Remember our military. They're over there fighting for us. I know our president has been taking them and withdrawing them out of certain areas in Europe. We hope that they all come back safely to us and they all come back healthy to us. Those that they haven't, please keep them in your prayers. That it was a tough loss and a tough battle when we lose these people. So please keep them in your prayers. Okay, thank you. We'll do the roll call. Please, board members, just let me know that you're here. Chuck Capelli. Here. Jim Savino. Here. Kelly Chen. Here. Kelly and Pablo were at, night out against the client, and we thank them that they were doing their own little job there for our youth organization and stuff. We want to thank them. I have a few other people I thank as we go down the line. John Cho. Kim Cody. Here. Nick Corrado. Here. Pauline Fleischman. Here. Fred Fu. Yes. Doreen Catanis. Here. Vincent is away, yes? I think it's a family. Pablo? Here. Cody Herman? Here. Just need 1 second. I'm putting yes down instead of P for president. Jeff Hung? Yeah. Okay, just so you know, we have a few people at work because of their health conditions and stuff. We had to put a secondary site. We checked with the legal department in the Borough President's office, and they said we could use a secondary site. It had to be open to the public, so if anybody went over there, they'd be allowed in there. But the people that are over there, and I'm sorry, I should have my mask on. I apologize. The people that are over there have kind of extenuating circumstances, so that's why we have them over there. That's when I'm looking at the screen here. It's not a teleprompter. It's a laptop that's connected over there with our other board person, and that was Jeff that just acknowledged that he's present. Lawrence Hughes? Present. Phil Coningsberg? Here. Okay, he's over at the secondary site. Those are the only 2 board members, yes? Okay, thank you. Esther Lee? Yes. Dr. Winston Lee? Wendy Liu? Yes. Frank Macchio? I'm here. Betsy Mack? Here. Reverend McEachin? Barbara McHugh? Here. Michelle Mayo? Yes. Selma Moses? Here. Serge? Here. Kim O'Hanlon is absent. She's over with her family. Millicent? Here. John Park? Here. Terrence Park? Yeah. Yaakov? Here. Frank Patelis? Here. Patella. Chris Rand? Here. Paul Ruffino? Here. Warren Schreiber.
Here.
Evan Shields.
Here.
Matt Silverstein.
Here.
John,
I'm
please,
here.
I can't hear.
Where's Matt?
John Sussman.
I'm here.
Joe Sweeney.
Here.
John Savalas. Here. Peter Tu.
Here.
Harpreet.
Here.
Clarissa.
Here.
Maggie.
Yes.
Dion.
Here.
Elena and Lezu are.
Lena is.
Oh, Lena, I'm sorry. She was originally this. Okay. You got your present. Okay. Okay. Lezu is away. We got something, and Jesu I feel is away as well. Okay, and the board chair is present. Okay. Just a little housekeeping before we go into our meeting. One, this is a public meeting. It's not a hearing. The public is entitled to stay here. We have no problem with it. We should please be courteous. Please don't yell out. Please don't make noise and stuff. You do not have the ability to ask questions because this is a special meeting that deals with the removal of a board member. Okay, it's not a public hearing. It's a public meeting. So we wish that you stay here. We'd like you to be hearing what's going on. You can hear the comments and twine and stuff. I will tell you, if we go into executive session, however, and that's if a motion is made to go into executive session, then that means that the public must leave. We fall under the open meeting law. If you don't mind, just so
Go ahead.
I'm losing my breath. We go under section 105 of the open meeting law, item F, which allows us to do it internally with anything that deals with the discipline of a member or removal of a member and stuff like that. So that's under the open meeting law. It hasn't been proposed. We'd like to have you hear what's going on. We're trying not to have a problem with that, but if a motion is made, you will be asked to please leave quietly through the side door over there, and then the committee will continue with its hearings. Right now, you're more than welcome. We thank you for coming in. We thank you for being organized. I thank our precinct for being here. And again, I have to thank the church for being very gracious to us to give us the hall, especially since we're fighting. We were just trying to get ahead of the curve for September. What people don't understand is even though we go into hiatus during the summertime, September is a very difficult month for us, especially this year because this is the 20th anniversary of 9/11. I've been on the fire department for 39 years. I've retired. We have a lot of police officers. We have a lot of family that we lost. And I think a lot of issues are going to happen in September, and we won't be around. And that's why we were trying to get ahead of the curve as it happens. Also, for those that are of the religious faith, it's a very difficult month for Jewish holidays. And we have to constantly bend how we can make our committee work. So a lot of times, if it's not a heavy load, we only usually have one meeting, and then we get into October when we get back into the full swing. So that's why we're doing this. We're trying to stay on the curve, keep into the regime that we don't have something get pushed into September, which would be very difficult. Okay? All right. Now, today is a special meeting to address allegations against board member John Cho and for a board vote, but to remove him as a member of Community Board 7, Queens, as per our bylaws. Special committee report was received on August 6, 2021 regarding the removal of John Cho as member of Community Board 7. On June 14, 2021, a duly called regular meeting of Community Board 7, Queens, the first vice chair of CB7, Chuck Appellian, called for the removal of Community Board 7 member John Cho, responded. Based on the following 5 allegations, each individually constituted a sufficient cause for removal. Item 1, board member Cho violated the New York City Charter section 2604, subsection B, section 9, and section 11 and 12 with respect to soliciting funds from other Community Board 7 members for his 2021 campaign for New York City Council member District 20. Item 2, Cho or his representative on his behalf created a fake Community Board 7 Facebook page which depicted an official City of New York government agency. Cho was not authorized by either Community Board 7 or its chairperson to create a Facebook page or to authorize speak publicly on behalf of Community Board 7. In doing so, Cho represented himself as speaking publicly on behalf of Community Board 7. The Facebook page was fake and required the New York City Department of Investigation to intervene with Facebook to have the page removed. The Facebook page solely contained a repost of the Greater Flushing Chamber of Commerce agendas. an independent organization of which Cho is executive director thereof. In engaging in the aforementioned activity, Cho failed to meet his obligation as a member of Community Board 7 not to speak publicly on behalf of the board unless duly authorized by the board or chairperson. Item 3. Board member Cho has poor Community Board 7 meeting attendance and or poor voting records, including absentees from votes without cause and or leaving meetings early to avoid voting, insufficiently to meet his obligation as a member of Community Board 7 to vote on all matters pertaining to the board for a vote, except where there is a conflict of interest. Item 4, Cho defamed other Community Board 7 members by repeatedly disparaging their reputation through oral and written statements that these other Community Board members are corrupt. These statements are baseless, and there are, as per deformity. At a minimum, Cho was negligent making such statements. The making of these defamatory statements are actually damaging to the reputation of other Community Board 7 members. 5, Board member Cho himself corrupt. At a Community Board President land use hearing, Cho boldly admitted that the Community Board 7 vote could be bought after hearing these allegations. A sufficient supermajority of members voted 43-3 to 1 abstention in favor of initiating procedures as per Community Board 7 bylaws for the removal of a respondent, John Cho, member of Community Board 7. Subsequent Community Board 7 chairperson Gene Kelty, myself, established a special committee to investigate the allegations made against the respondent and appointed as special committee members Warren Schreiber, second vice chair, Frank Macchio, third vice chair, Lazo, fourth vice chair, Betsy Mack, Community Board 7 member at large, and Barbara McHugh, Community Board member at large, and appointed senior Community Board 7 member Frank Macchio as chair of the special committee. These committee members accept. You want me to finish that list?
Go ahead.
These committee members accepted the appointments and responsibilities of the committee as an obligation to perform the duty to the community board. And with that, I'll turn it over to the chair of the committee, Frank Macchio, who will give you an explanation on each item.
Thank you, Gene. I'd just like to say a few things before I go into the notes I have here. The chair of the board appointed a committee to do this. As our obligation as board members, we accepted this appointment and did the job that was required for us to do. This was not a witch hunt. We accepted these responsibilities as board members, and I'd like to compliment the committee for their diligence and compassion and empathy while going through all of this. It was not something we wanted to do. Another thing I want to mention is that there are roughly 50 board members on Community Board 7. I've been a member probably 25 plus years. And we are out on Monday nights, once or twice a month at least, at a public hearing, and we spend time away from our families. And all of these people on this board are community people who dedicate their time free of charge. And some of the stuff that's in the papers about the corruption of Community Board 7 is a slap in the face to a lot of people here who are decent, dedicated people, and to the board as a whole. I will continue. The special committee scheduled an investigatory hearing at 7:30 p.m. on July 20th at the Pappenhusen Institute. The allegator and respondent were both duly notified of the time and place of the hearing, and each was advised of their rights to be represented by counsel of their choosing and to represent evidence, including testimony from witnesses. The respondent failed to appear at the hearing, Mr. Cho, and failed to otherwise make any submission as to a defense. In the absence of the respondent at the hearing and the absence of any defense submission, the special committee proceeded to the hearing. In addition to the special committee members, the meeting was attended by Chuck Appelian, Gene Kelty, Community Board 7 members Joe Sweeney and Josh Sussman. Also in attendance was Detective Aris Klein from the 109 Precinct and Zeke Luger, a student from Queens College. The committee acknowledged the absence of John Cho and would have preferred him being there to represent himself with the defense. Now, let's discuss, the committee discussed these allegations in their own right. The allegation number 1, violation of New York City Charter. Mr. Cho solicited funds from Community Board 7 members. The respondent handed out some documents which he's prepared to do again.
I'm ready now.
Go ahead, Chuck.
Can I take the microphone?
Sure. Just, we're going to handle each allegation on its own. Let me just read the context here, and then it'll make more sense what he's handing out. Mr. Appelian will have 3 minutes to discuss what he's handed out, and Mr. Cho will have 3 minutes to defend himself if he'd like. The respondent was a candidate in the 2021 Democratic primary for the position of City Council member from New York City 20th Council District. The allegor entered into evidence the attached letter from Community Board 7 Queens to the New York Campaign Finance Board dated December 30th, 2020, which documented that in excess of 20 members of Community Board 7 were solicited by mail by respondent for funds for his New York City Council campaign. The allegor also presented numerous emails to board members sent by the respondent, Mr. Cho, soliciting funds. The member of...
At that point, then? And then follow, should I present and then make some eyes over you? Because you're coming to the summary.
I don't think it did yet, but you can go right ahead. Hand that out. Well, after Chuck speaks, then John can come up.
I'd just like to make an opening statement also. The requirement that we have tonight is to determine whether or not there is cause. That's what's defined in our charter, that's what's defined in the bylaws for removal, cause. There are 5 charges that are being presented. Each in their own can be something that you determine can be cause or not, either individually or grouped together. That could be your decision, but at the end of the day, you're not going to be voting on each of the 5 items. You're going to be determining later on whether or not there was sufficient cause of the behavior that took place. Just want to tell you that this didn't happen overnight, and this isn't a personal situation. This is something that went on for a couple of years, and specifically over the last couple of months on the different types of behavior, which we'll get into individually as I go forward. There was hours and hours of work that went into some of these investigations with city agencies, including DOI, the Conflict of Interest Board, etc. Very, very time-consuming on our board's behalf, and whether it's the Community Board office or whether it was ourselves as board members. I personally spent dozens of hours speaking to board members over the course of time about the situation and about the behavior, and board members coming to me and with the frustration that everybody had about the different types of behavior that were taking place. I'm going to go into the first thing now, and then I'll get into some more discussion, but if the board will give out packet number 1, this is evidence that was submitted to the committee, and I'd like to show it to everybody and everybody see what took place. So charge number 1 is that Cho did solicit campaign funds from Community Board 7 members. It's against the charter. Pure and simple, you cannot ask another member of your organization for campaign finance funds. It's illegal. What you're going to see, and I'll wait for it all to be given out, letter written first by the chair of the board to the campaign, to the conflict of interest board, explaining that board members have been told that the membership list is proprietary and to be used only for board business, number one, and the fact that contributions cannot be requested amongst board members for each other. Towards the back, there's one. Let me backtrack. We had a total, and you'll see the tally, 23 people received emails, of which, for the purpose of today's attachment, and just ones that we had and not picking anyone out over another, one was the board member Clarissa Wong, and another one was the board member Barbara McHugh. New York City Chapter 68 of the Charter is very clear. Without limitations, you may not solicit support for a campaign for those which you deal with at your community board, period. That you perform your service for the campaign only at times that you are not required to perform services, and that you not use city equipment, letterhead, or other resources in connection with the outdoor activity. It's very clear that Cho emailed Community Board 7 members requesting contributions, and it came from his campaign, and he used an email list, which is a New York City resource. There's campaign COIB advisories that tell that without limitation that you cannot use the community board or staff to engage in political activity, and was brought up before from section 264 B9 B11 prohibit any public servant from asking any other public servant to engage in political activities or make political contribution, and further provide that a public servant, which we all are as community board members, may not ask any public servant to participate in a political campaign or contribute to some. And Chapter 2604B12 prohibits public services charged with substantial policy discretion, which is what we are, we have policy discretion, from soliciting political contributions from anyone on behalf of the candidate. What we have right here is, like I said, under the guise of have a great holiday. This was sent out December 24th, right before the Christmas holiday, wishing everybody a great holiday, and very clear, please come and join. Can you please send some money? And it's nothing as clear as it could be. We are close to receiving the public fund matching. Help me finish the 2020 strong by donating $10. We cannot do this without you. See in the new year, John. It's clear. It's blatant. It's something that he knows better. Let me remind you, Mr. Cho is not a novice. Mr. Cho was the former chief of staff of former council member John Liu in the mid-2000s, somewhere around 2007, 8, 9. Mr. Cho was also policy director for the then controller John Liu. He knows public policy. He knows right from wrong. He also ran for election. By the way, so that everybody gets a clear understanding that this is not personal. In 2009, I was one of the first that went to the Macedonia Church and endorsed John Cho for council. I stood up there and I stood strong. I had a good working relationship with him when he was the chief of staff of Councilman Liu, and I thought he would be a good candidate to succeed him, and I endorsed him. This is not about a personal grudge that I have with the man. It's about right and wrong, and he did wrong. So he knows you're not allowed to solicit funds. He knows policy, he knows the charter, he knows the rule. He also knows what we were told many times in our meetings about the list and the proprietary nature of the list, and he emailed members numerous times on personal business, and he was told not to. We also had meetings where the board chair stood up and said, the list is only for business that was board business. But what's typical and what we're finding here is a defiance, an arrogance. Someone that just doesn't want to go with the rules, and just for the sake of having it his way, he decides that he's going to do things opposite to what the law says. Remember, we're not doing this just on a whim. This isn't just because we don't like him. That's not the issue. I say it loud and clear, front and center. It has nothing to do with a personal situation. This is about violating the board, violating policy, and violating the New York City Charter. I rest.
Mr. Cho, I would invite you up for a rebuttal or an opening statement on that issue. Before you start, John, this is an opening statement, item number 1. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is John Cho, and I have a quick statement and also a quick rebuttal. More than 1 million New Yorkers have become infected, and 30,000 have died from COVID-19. Our business community is collapsing. Hundreds of thousands of our neighbors are jobless, facing eviction, or unable to feed their families. The recent surge in the Delta variant has created a wave of panic, uncertainty, and hopelessness in our neighborhoods. And what has Community Board 7 done? Not much.
John, I'm going to interrupt you. John, we're talking about item number 1.
Are you going to let me speak, or are you going to keep interrupting me?
No, we have a meeting and an agenda. And
I have an opening statement that I would like to say. You didn't interrupt Chuck. Please don't interrupt me. Give me that respect, please.
Okay. Number one, Chuck was staying to that topic, and yes, I will give you the.
Are you gonna let me speak
Let
or
me
not?
finish talking, please, and I will give you that latitude to make an opening statement. I'd like to, in the parameters and not trying to be here all night, take 5 minutes.
Thank you. I think we can all agree that wasting taxpayer resources in a witch hunt to kick me off the board is not the highest need in our community right now. But that's exactly what the board, its executive committee, and staff have done over the past several months and years. Spending hours, Chuck just said he spent hours of our time, our resources, our taxpayer resources, collecting information about my activities, meeting behind closed doors in the hopes of catching me in some nefarious act or excuse to push me out. Instead of addressing the concerns and criticisms I've raised over the years, the chair and vice chairs, in their collective wisdom, have essentially decided to kill the messenger. How? With the most ridiculous collection of sham allegations, each more ridiculous than the other, that I've ever witnessed in my 2-decade career in public service. In fact, Gene's hand-picked special committee couldn't even get itself to validate all the charges brought forth by Chuck Apillion. Let's go through each of the allegations one by one, and since I'm only speaking about the first one, I'll only talk about the first one. First, it's clear there was no real investigation by the special committee, besides taking Chuck's word that I violated the city charter. Sending an email as a private individual to another private individual to solicit campaign funds is lawful activity. I did not in any way identify myself as a member of Community Board 7, nor did I address any of the recipients who received my email as members of Community Board 7. Read the charter, read it. In order for me to violate the law, there must be either A, coercion, intimidation, threats. Did my holiday greeting email have any of that? B, there needs to be some type of subordinate relationship between myself and the recipient. Are any of you my subordinates? No, we're equals, we're peers. And C, and Chuck knows this very clearly, and I know this very clearly, the public servant has to have substantial policy discretion. And I'm not just making this up, I'm actually reading a conflict of interest advisory opinion, number 2001, to page 4. And it says, this specifically applies, this particular part of the conflict of interest law specifically applies to public servants with substantial policy discretion. I know this. I've spoken to the Conflicts of Interest Board. Any of you can pick up the phone or email them and they'll tell you the same thing. While I'm clearly a threat to some of you, I have not had any substantive policy discretion on this board. Trust me, I would love to have policy discretion on this board, but I have no power. In fact, I am probably the most powerless person on this board right now. Hundreds of community board members throughout the city run for elective office and send fundraising solicitations. It is perfectly legal, and I have personally confirmed this with the Conflicts of Interest Board. Did anyone take a minute to pick up the phone on this special committee? Did any of you? Chair, did you pick up the phone and email the Conflict of Interest Board?
No.
Okay, you didn't. And that's a problem. No iota of investigation, no searching beyond the allegations that Chuck gave. You're just basically accepting on blind faith that he's right. Absolutely ridiculous. Here is my verbatim correspondence with the Conflicts of Interest Board. Question: if I'm a member of the community board, am I prohibited from emailing my contact list to solicit contributions for my own campaign for elected office? Answer: you may use your own contact list to solicit contributions for your campaign for elected office, but you may not use the community board's resources for your campaign. And this is signed by Christopher Hammer, Deputy General Counsel, the New York City Conflicts of Interest Board. His email is hammer@coib.nyc.gov. You're welcome to email him. His phone number is 212-437-0721. Call him. Don't take my word for it. After this meeting, pick up the phone, call him. Just for your own state of mind. Did you make the right decision tonight? Call them tomorrow. Don't take my word for it. Don't take Chuck's word for it, for sure. How many of you received the email solicitations? Did 50 of you? Did 30 of you? No. Very few of you, maybe 20. If I used the board's email list, all of you would have gotten an email solicitation, right? Why would I not send everyone an email solicitation? It's absurd. You, whoever received this, I had already had contact with. You're part of an email list that I have used. I'm not stealing resources from the community board. I don't have to use your email list. I have 4,000 people on my email list. It's absurd to think that you're going to use this to kick me off the board. It's absurd. Thank you.
Excuse me, again, I'm going to tell you, no clapping, none of that. Otherwise, please leave. Okay, you're here to listen, and that's it. I heard a few snide things before. I didn't get up and interrupt John. I didn't want to do that. Please don't do that. I'm asking you nicely.
So I'm going to read allegation number 1 again. By the way, just for the record, Chuck had some.
Questions by board members, to either Chuck or John.
Okay. Any questions for Chuck or?
He says he's powerless, but if he's only showing up at 60% of the meetings and abstaining at any vote he ever did, how could he have?
Hold on, Paul, that's not the issue right now. We're only dealing with item 1.
And try.
Well, he brought it up. It was his opening statement.
And thank you. And try to keep thank you. And try to keep these to a direct question. So that I just want to bring out one point that on item number 1, Chuck had presented some hard document evidence, and John just did not. He just spoke on what he was holding in his hand.
Can I elaborate on that document?
I do have a quick. I had no idea that my email was going to be used here. I'm a little bit blindsided by this, and I had no intention of trying to get anybody in trouble. I just didn't want my personal contact information to be distributed to people outside of the board. You know, but I don't personally feel that that is a reason for removal based on, you know, an email that was sent to me. I mean, I don't know. I just feel, I'm a little blindsided by that.
No, I understand your feeling, your personal feeling on that, but there is charter bylaw that governs on how that information is used.
Right.
Okay, I mean, I understand that. I'm just saying, you know, I had no idea that it was, my issue, my complaint was not that he was doing anything illegal or against charter regulations. It was more that, please don't use my email for any other reasons other than board purposes. That had been my only.
And a lot of us feel that way. Thank
Okay,
you.
I just want to make that clear.
Well, as a point of information on it, if you look at the top of the address list that I gave you, it says not to be used by that.
Right, and that's why, you know, that's why I brought it to your attention. I don't want I would prefer my personal email not to be distributed to any, you know, for any purpose other than community board.
So, Frank, the bottom line is it legal or illegal? If it's illegal, specifically describe and explain to us so we can convince that it's illegal. According to John, it was perfectly okay. It was not illegal.
He didn't present any evidence.
Yes.
He didn't present any
He said
evidence.
it's not illegal. All right?
Go ahead, Chuck.
I want to know. I believe all Community Board 7 members should know why we have to move if we have to. That's what we gotta know and have a right judgment to do so. So please,
I'm ready.
specifically.
I'm ready.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Campaign, excuse me, I get confused with campaign finance and conflict of interest. They both have a similar acronym. COIB, the Conflict of Interest Board Advisory Opinion Number 2003-6. A community board member cannot communicate on behalf of political campaign with other members and staff of their community board and may not request a public servant, including without limitations the staff of that community board, to make a political contribution to engage in political activity. Quoting the charter, to 604, B9, and B11. That's what was been issued, and that's what we went on. Now, let me say something else as far as being equals or not being equals. Think about it, because people brought it to me. This man was running for council. But geez, what if I don't contribute to his campaign and he wins? Will he hold that against me? Maybe he won't reappoint me. Maybe there'll be retribution. That's why this isn't right. And you can, dissect and trisect the law, and John's over there, we'll go back and forth. But at the end of the day, there's a moral thing here. Remember, we're going for cause. We're not convicting in the Supreme Court right now and making sure that every section of the law is precise and debated. But there is ruling from the Conflict of Interest Board. And ask yourself, gee, what if he won? Would he kick me off the board? Maybe I should have contributed to him. That's where it no longer becomes a group of equals, and that's where the interest and the influence takes place.
I'm going to finish with this section of the go ahead, Reverend.
Please.
I think we have to be very careful here, because there's a lot of implications being said, and can sway one party against the other. The bottom line is that, according to what we have here, that everybody wasn't solicited on the board. There was a certain amount of people solicited. My name is on there because I have a relationship with John. I'm the pastor of the church. So there are relationships in here that precedes the board. So we have to be careful. Because if you say, well, I was solicited, well, I'm solicited because we have a relationship that goes beyond the board. Everybody wasn't solicited. So we have to be careful when we say that the board was solicited. The board wasn't solicited. There were certain members on the board that were solicited. That was less than half. So we just got to be careful of how we run down this track.
No. I was solicited and I'm not a friend.
You have no other relationship.
Absolutely not. In fact, we've had other dealings. I am certainly not a friend of John Doe. And what was said is very true. Because I said to my other friend, boy, if he gets elected, this is the last term I'll serve on the community board. Because I know, because it's his representative who called me a white bitch at our last meeting when we were voting on the waterfront project.
Thank you.
Arlene, you serve in the same civic
Oh, John, you can't speak out of turn.
You serve in the same civic association. Don't say that we
John,
have a relationship.
John, please,
You
thank you.
don't serve any civic
Cody?
association.
Stop. No, pause, please.
Question?
Yeah, so I'm just looking at, this is the attachment that's referenced in like that first letter, I assume. So it says that unless the board issues an order finding the violation of conflict of interest law has occurred, and then an order would be published. So was there an order published? Because we don't have like a copy of the order that was published if they
I gave
actually
you the
did
order.
find
I
a
gave you the order
violation.
number that I spoke. I don't have a copy with me right now.
Well, I think, like again, the last communication here is from December 30th, 2020, and now we're in August. So for them not to have like published this violation in 10 months and for us to not have a copy of it, it really does seem like we're just kind of guessing and making an assumption ourselves because we don't actually have anything from the conflict of interest board.
Excuse me, my point of information.
The letter.
Since I wrote the letter, okay, conflict of interest will not talk to me. Okay, they will not talk to me. They said, we acknowledge your letter, and that is it. If I try to call them like John suggests, they will not talk to me. They will say that's under investigation right now. They will tell me, they will publish if there is an action taken against the board of that person. I've been getting the conflict.
So do we know if they're still investigating currently?
As far as I know, yes, they're still investigating. But they're investigating the city of New York, everybody that's in there. I get the conflict of information emails that they send me when they publish things and stuff like that. And in it, that will tell it. They do not call me up and say, Jim, by the way, we found him guilty. They will not talk to me.
Okay.
That's their action. That's their problem.
It says here that they won't contact you unless the board does issue the order.
That's correct.
So
But
there has been no order.
But
issued.
he wouldn't answer me when I said, are you investigating? If the answer is, I can't answer that,
Okay, so we know nothing.
that's
We
right.
officially know nothing.
That's correct, because they won't give me anything.
But if they had something,
They-
if John had violated,
Right.
according to the conflicts of
Right.
interest board, they would alert you, but they
No,
have not.
we don't know if they're still investigating.
Right.
They haven't made a final decision, and they won't tell you that at this
Okay.
point.
So they're the authority on that.
Yes.
We certainly are not the authority on that.
And that's why we turned it over to them,
So
and I'm still
maybe
waiting for an
we shouldn't
answer.
be voting on this right now if they haven't said anything.
It's your choice.
I'm sorry, right?
That's your decision.
All I'm just simply saying here is, I went through the normal procedures to get this done, back in 2019, 2020. One of the questions you came up the last time you said to me is, why it's taking so long?
No, I
Okay,
understand that.
and that's why it's taking so long.
For
So
sure.
the answer is, now that anybody is not doing anything, we're moving forward because under the charter we have the right to do that.
Yeah.
That's what we're operating under. Conflict of interest can come back 6 months later and say, yes, we did, or they won't say anything at all. But I can't dedicate or predicate to them how fast they move. And if it depends, again, I don't know if they do a pecking order by on the date it comes in, or is it by who's more important than the community board or anything. Okay. I'm only
Yeah,
going on
I would
conflict of
definitely feel more comfortable if, like, we waited for that decision or to hear anything back from them, because I'm not an expert in this type of stuff. I really.
and that's why you're listening to the both sides to make a decision on that.
Again, I think the people that would make the decision is the conflicts of interest board, not us. as a
No,
city.
it gives the community board the opportunity under the charter to move forward.
We have that latitude.
Okay, now I'm just answering your answer on this.
Thank you.
Jimmy,
Advisory Board Opinion 2003-6, and may not request a public servant, including without initiation, the staff of their community board to make a political contribution. If I'm running for president tomorrow, and I ask a member of this board for $50, am I in violation, yes or no? I mean, it says that to me, but I'm getting a little worried too, because I want to know if I run for president tomorrow and I ask for $50, am I breaking the law? Not breaking the law, am I in violation of my duties as a Community Board 7 member? Yes or no?
I would believe, yes, we would believe so.
If you use the community
If you use them, email it. Now, you would probably be smart enough to resign from the board before you
No,
announce
but
it.
I didn't finish. But am I supposed to, if I'm going to ask for $50, don't I have to ask Frank Macchio or have to ask Joe Sweeney? I mean, there's something here about referencing another committee member or another board
It's the
member.
use of the community board email list that was the major problem.
No, I'm referring to asking for a
Yes,
contribution.
he asked the money through the email address of the owner.
But forget about the email. Am I allowed to ask for $50?
But that's under federal law, we're talking about the city law.
The city law, forget about federal law. Am I allowed to ask for $50?
Can I add a comment?
You
No,
should
it's
be,
not, but then what is this opinion saying that I'm not allowed to?
Michelle?
Yes, yeah, I'd like to make a comment. So I think the critical thing here is that how does this person.
Right.
Would you stand
Yes.
up, please, so we can hear you a little better? Just
Okay.
stand up. Thank you.
So I think I'd like to make some clarification because, as a new board member, I feel really, share your concern. That's our concern is that our email, our personal contacts not being used.
Yes.
So what's critical here is that, how does this person get the email? If through your friendship, you're dealing with, you already know as a acquaintance, that's okay, right? So that's your personal friends. But, we join the community to serve the people here. I don't really want to give, someone I don't even know, my personal email. So for this particular case, my concern, I was not happy. Well, I will leave the legal issues to other people. However, when I got 2 emails, one for my personal, one for my official city email. And, I don't really know him personal, and so I don't like it. I just think I'm not saying you're guilty or whatever. Guilty need to
want, my email being abused, my personal contact information being abused in other ways. I don't even know you, so my email and also my work email, which I work for the city of New York, also received this email. That's totally wrong, and this is totally wrong. So this is just my.
Well, this opinion, this charter is saying that I'm not allowed to, correct?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I want to know. So this opinion was published by the Conflict of Interest Board or by the Borough Board?
That's right.
No, conflict of interest board.
Thank you. That's
No
all I
borough
wanted to know.
board.
That's great. Thank you. That answers the question. Thank you. Frank.
The other viewpoint that I have as a committee member was that I think it should have been incumbent upon John to cull out and be sure that he didn't double dip and solicit board members. They should have been culled out of his list if he did have another relationship with them. All right? Millicent.
This is serious stuff here. And we've been passed out a list showing a list of board members who received emails.
Right.
These are phone calls. These are not emails.
No. Excuse me. If I could just clarify that. No, to clarify that. I did that list to see if the people received a notice from John. That was my list. That was the telephone call.
Well,
Okay.
thank you for straightening that out. Because after he spoke of his vast
What
email
happened?
listing.
Sorry, board members. To clarify what happened was, I got sent emails saying that John had solicited money from them for his campaign things. I got 3 or 4 of them, as you heard before. Clarissa Ward, Kim Hannon got one, and a few others. What happened was, again, Reverend, I heard what you say. If it was 1 or 2 or 5 or 3, I'd say okay, possibly. But what I did was I asked the board, and I myself, I said, please call all board members, find out that they get an email or get something on the phone or whatever it was, that they got a solicitation from John. I said, otherwise he's in violation of that conflict of interest law. And that's what that tally sheet is, that yes, they got notification, whether it be telephone, email, or whatever, or left a message on their machine.
Okay.
That's what that is.
And the key word, according to Trump, the key word is that there should be no communication.
You may not solicit
No
support.
communication, whether it's email,
It says you
telephone.
may not solicit support, so it doesn't say email, telephone, mail. I ran into you in the grocery store, stuff like that. It says here, you may not solicit support. However that means, that's open, okay?
Just allow me to jump a little forward. We have four allegations?
Yes.
5 allegations. And then we're going to discuss, I'm going to tell you how the committee reacted to each, and then we're going to discuss them as a whole, and then we'll make a motion or whatever at that point.
Yeah, so I am listed as not sure here. I was never solicited any emails.
Say that again?
Say that again?
I am listed as not sure here, but my answer was specifically no when being called.
Okay, correct.
Well, again, I think I called you, and you said, I'm not sure. Now, you went home and said, no, I never got it, I'm sure, and then you call me back and tell me no. That's why I put not sure. Not sure.
But you can clarify it now. That's fine.
And
You're
if
saying
it's
you
no,
did-
that's fine.
You did not get one, you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
That's why you'll see I said voicemail, that I tried to put as much into the thing just to say that if you weren't sure, yeah.
Just wanted to clarify.
So I want to go back to the allegation so we can try and wrap this up. Are you a board member? No, then you're not.
I think Larry might have, just last check.
Are we discussing the items right now, or is that later?
We're at allegation number 1. You can ask a question on that.
When I read the charter itself, rather than the opinion, it seems that it's subsection B12 that is directly on point here, perhaps even more so than the opinion. It says, no public servant, with a couple of exceptions, shall directly or indirectly request any person to make or pay any
political assessment, subscription, or contribution for any candidate for an elective office of the city. So as long as Mr. Cho is not within one of the enumerated exceptions, this seems to be directly on point, is it not?
And we are public servants.
No public servant, with a couple of exceptions.
No, I'm saying, and we are public servants.
We are public servants according to the definition, again, within the city charter.
So thank you. So John, go ahead.
I'd love to answer that question if I may. As I said before, there is an opinion that I'm quoting. You can look it up yourself when you get home. Conflict of Interest Board Advisory Opinion number 2001-2. It clarifies that statement, that provision, number 12. Charter Section 2604(b)(12) provides that a public servant charged with substantial policy discretion may not request a contribution from anyone for a candidate for a city elected office. It's very clear. You read this opinion, I can show it to you right now.
But
I
John,
highlighted
an
it.
opinion of what the law states.
This is the Conflict of Interest Board
Opinion.
saying their interpretation. They are the enforcement agents for the Conflict of Interest law. They are saying
What's the opinion number? What's the opinion number?
This is Advisory Opinion 2001-2. And you can look it up yourself when you get home. I'm sorry to make copies, but it's right here. I highlighted substantial policy. I don't have any substantial policy discretion.
Well, that's 2003. A later opinion of 2003-6, 2 years later, is what I read that says you cannot.
The words of the charter that I'm reading here says, other than one who is charged with substantial policy discretion. So if you are not charged with substantial policy discretion, then are you not then within just the general provision?
Can I just very quickly answer this question?
Go ahead.
The reason why I am 100% sure of this is because I called the Conflict of Interest Board. I asked them, as a committee board member, do I need to resign, step down to my position on the committee board? They said no. Correct. Because I do not have substantial policy discretion. I do not have any substantial policy discretion. This is applying to people in city government, public servants who have substantial policy discretion. Like I said, hundreds of people.
But that's out of context. That's only to run, not to solicit campaigns.
Hundreds of people.
You don't have to resign to run.
Hundreds of people. Please stop interrupting me. Hundreds of people.
You don't have
I didn't hear you.
to
I didn't hear you, John.
Hundreds of people
Let John finish.
on committee boards run for
Excuse me.
office.
I'm in charge, not you. Okay? So I'll be the judge on who's stopping people. Okay? I apologize for that. But let's get it said.
Hundreds of people.
It's one more, and I'm going to ask you to leave. Sorry, John.
Just very quickly.
Yes, go ahead.
Hundreds of people, I said this before, but I just want to really emphasize, hundreds of people on committee boards run for elected office every election. They solicit funds, sometimes from fellow committee board members. Hundreds of people are not right at the law because the Conflict of Interest Board has determined that committee board members have no substantial policy discretion. Call them, email them.
We did.
I am not making this up.
We did.
Thank you, John.
John,
John,
Yago,
Yago.
you gotta ask me questions.
one question. Was the email address to committee board members, any email address was used for that purpose?
Yeah.
Did you get the list from anybody from the list from the board members? That's a question.
Yeah.
How did you get the list? It was from the list from the committee board or from other sources?
I'll tell you where I got the list of emails. Anytime
No, I'm just saying, did you use any email address from the list that was given from the committee board server? Any email? One.
No.
Are you sure you didn't use any email address that wasn't provided from the committee board?
I will tell you where I got those email addresses. Anytime.
No, did you use any email address?
You're asking me a
Yeah,
question.
he used hers.
Can I please answer your question? Okay. I have more than 4,000 email addresses in my contact list. Anytime I correspond with someone, it gets added to that email list. So if you have corresponded with me or I have corresponded with you, please, I know we had an email conversation about bike lanes. I don't know if you remember this.
I do remember it.
That's how
I do remember it.
that's how your email address got into my contact.
But how did you get my email regarding the bike
From the
lanes?
board list.
How did you get my email regarding the bike lanes? I think it was the list, John. I don't think that's a reason. I don't think it's a reason to kick John off the board for a contact list. I don't.
It's against the law.
I don't think that. You know
Let's
what
not
I
have
mean?
cross conversation.
But-
I'd like to move past.
Listen, board members, this is questions only. We're jumping on and giving this opinion, okay? If you feel uncomfortable about this, then when we go on a motion, whatever the motion is, that's when you give your opinion on
But
it.
he was asking me, you were clarifying where you got my email from the very beginning.
I understand,
Yes.
I understand. That's fine, it's a fine question. I just don't want to keep badgering back and forth.
I was going to say that he had to get my email address from the board list that you send the names and
Okay.
everything. That's where he got it from.
Okay.
John, I don't know if you remember, but you've been in my house with Councilman Lou. You knew my husband. Yet when you joined this board, it was as if I didn't even exist. You got my email address from the board that was this heading, from CB7.
The some questions, if you're gonna.
No, I just want
Okay.
to.
I understand that.
So when you want to vote or ask to vote or make a decision, you can base your you can base your vote on your feelings with regard to that. Because the respondent did directly, we felt as a committee, because the respondent did directly request contributions from other persons for his campaign for city elected. While respondent was a community board member, respondent violated this conflict of interest board. This is how the committee felt. The respondent had a duty to resign his membership on the community board prior to his solicitation. Not prior to him running, prior to his solicitation to the elected office campaign. Such a violation of failure to resign constitutes cause for removal. Okay, the special committee unanimously found that the respondent did improperly solicit funds from Community Board 7 members for his campaign. Allegation number 2, Mr. Cho created an unauthorized Facebook account representing it as an official CB7Q account. Around December 2017, the Facebook account and page appeared in the name of Community Board 7 and was discovered by several board members. In late 2019, it was discovered by many board members in late 2019, and it came to a head. The page presented itself as a communication channel of Community Board 7. However, the establishment of the Facebook account had not been authorized by Community Board 7 as per attached February 19, 2020 letter from Community Board 7 to the New York City Department of Law, the Office of Corporation Counsel. To go further, on June 14th, at a regular meeting of Community Board 7, Mr. Cho finally admitted that he created the unauthorized Facebook account after previously denying that fact. The bylaws of Community Board 7 impose a duty on a respondent not to speak publicly on behalf of the Community Board 7, absent authorization to do so by its chairman. The bylaws article Act 10 subsection 4, the obligation was important because Community Board 7 at times disseminates and shares safety and health issues with the community, and an unauthorized Facebook page can affect the life and safety of the community. By establishing a Facebook account and page in the name of Community Board 7, the respondent spoke publicly on behalf of Community Board 7 without authorization to do so, and the respondent violated his duties as a member of Community Board 7, constituting a cause for removal. There are people during COVID, especially during COVID, where Community Board 7 posts safety and health information. And if they were looking at a false page, that could have led to dire consequences. I'll allow Chuck to present an argument in this, and then Mr. Cho to come back. 3 minutes each. Chuck, 3 minutes.
On June 14th, when we had the first hearing about this on whether or not to proceed, finally, after a year or so of investigation and denial or avoidance, you people that were here, community board members, heard John finally admit to Gene, yes, John, I created the Facebook page. Yes, Gene, I created the Facebook page. And the answer was he did it because he felt that Gene and the board weren't acting quick enough, and the board didn't do anything on social media, and he had to take it into his own hands. This created a big, big problem. First of all, there was no authorization for this page. As you see, you've got screenshots of different posts, and it shows the page was created in 2017, December 4th. I don't understand why he felt there was so much urgency to get this Facebook page out, because by the own chats and the own likes that are on here, you've got 4 people liking the page, you've got 2 people liking the page, 13 people speaking about it in a community of 300,000, and there was urgency that he had to take in his own hands what he felt that the board should do above and beyond what the chair of the board or the board authorized. This created a big problem for everybody. Number one, he created a bogus page. It was not our page. It did not represent what the board was talking about. It was just posts and reposts of anything to do with the Flushing Chamber of Commerce and Flushing Fantastic and other organizations that he was affiliated with. So basically, it was a way to spread his own message via, quote, under the guise of the official community board. We couldn't allow it to happen. We couldn't take the page down. Those that are savvy to Facebook know that only the administrator, meaning whoever sets up the page, is allowed to modify or delete the page. We didn't know who it was. Gene sent an email to everybody on the board. 49 people responded in writing that they did not know who created it or they were not responsible for creating it. Only one person didn't respond, Mr. Cho. And finally, I'll let Gene explain to you, but Cho was finally, Gene spoke to him in person and he avoided the issue and basically said, whatever you want, Gene, do what you got to do. Well, that's why the February 19th letter was sent to the Department of Investigation, because we had no way of getting rid of it. Facebook wouldn't allow us to take it down. We had to get the attorneys of the Department of Investigation. They came in, I was at the hearing, I understand, I'll try to stay quick, to come to the board office, and they said to us, it's quite obvious who created this page, and only with their higher authority as the City of New York were they able to get through to Facebook and have the page finally removed. There was no reason for this. All they had to say was, yes, I created it, and that could have solved a great deal of constraint. And then we could have worked it from there. By the way, this letter, the 2018 letter from the Mitchell Linden Civic Association, he did it before. When he was in the Mitchell Linden Civic Association, he had created the page, and then when he left the board of directors, they asked for permission to take over, and they said, no, he wouldn't allow it.
No, that's not how it happened.
I'm sorry.
Okay. I allowed John to open the Facebook. It was me as the president, him as the co-president, and Emily Sheen as one of our board members, because they entered into this vegetable roast program. Then John left the Mitchell Linden Civic Association. And one day I got an email from Facebook telling me that myself and Emily Sheehan were removed as administrators. And when I said, what are you talking about? When we tried again, we couldn't do anything to get back on it. And we didn't have the means to go hire a lawyer or find out how we can have it done. They told us they can't do anything about it. It's all in the letter.
Okay.
He hijacked it from us, and he was no longer on the board of the Mitchell Linden.
Well, basically the same thing was there. It was a bogus page that was hijacked by him.
Well, it was a good page. It was a real page.
No. Ours was a bogus. But the same situation happened where he hijacked control and wouldn't relinquish. And it was the same thing here, except he did it on the cloak of not telling anybody this was his page. So I'm going to cut it short, but I want you to see right now, there's a number of screenshots you see here. They've been highlighted. They talk about Flushing Fantastic. It talks about his name, Executive Director of the Greater Flushing Chamber of Commerce, Butter Business Day of Action, Community Board. It's all under that the Community Board is putting this out. The Community Board is putting the information out. However, it was an unauthorized, bogus, fake page created by him, and for a year or more, he denied any control of the page, which could have saved a great deal of problem, and ultimately we had to go to the Department of Investigation to have it removed, and on June 14th, 2021, John finally admitted, yes, I made the page, Gene, because you weren't acting quick enough, so I had to do something about it.
John, would you like to rebut?
Thanks, Gene. So Arlene, I'm glad you admit that we do have a prior relationship in the Civic Association, and that's how I got your email address. Thank you for verifying that. One of the first requests I made to Chairman Gene Kelty when I was first appointed to Community Board 7 in 2017 was to better inform our diverse community. Not only about the board, but for many of the things that are going on in our community that they need to know. I spent months trying to convince Gene to create a Facebook page, to provide translated materials, to hire bilingual staff who can communicate with our diverse community, so that more people in our district could know what was going on, engage with our board to address community needs. My concerns and requests to better inform our community were dismissed and mostly ignored. 4 years later, today, Community Board 7 still does not have a Facebook page. Imagine that. 4 years and they still have no Community Board 7 page on Facebook. They have no translated materials in any languages, in any of the languages that our community speaks. How are we communicating with people in our community? They still do not have any staff who speak any of the languages here. We're supposed to be the eyes and ears of this district. How are we getting information and how are we answering questions? How are we communicating? That really frustrated me. And I did start posting public information about the board, including CB7 meeting dates, agenda, and minutes, as well as other resources, events, and activities that community members might find useful. I created a Facebook page. It took me 2 minutes. And no, it is not a criminal act or a violation of the city charter or a violation of our bylaws to post public information on social media. In fact, and none of us need Gene's permission. I certainly don't need permission to communicate with people in my community, to tell them what's going on. It is our duty as board members to do our best to inform our community about our government. And speaking of permission, it's interesting that Gene never seems to ask our permission when taking positions on controversial issues. For example, I was shocked to see Gene representing our community board at protests opposing the installation of a new busway on Main Street. I don't remember discussing this issue or voting on a resolution authorizing him to speak on our behalf. Well, I guess from Gene's perspective, accountability only goes one way. I ask you, is there a specific violation of the city charter, of our bylaws, of any criminal code in this city or the country that I violated that would justify kicking me off the board for posting public information on social media? Thank you.
Just one quick report.
So, again, it's not a matter of law, and we're not prosecuting. No one's going to jail. No one's going to spend prison time. We're not giving you a fine. This is a matter of anarchy. This was a logo and representation of a public body. Yes, you can do anything you want to represent yourself on Facebook. You can do anything on Twitter or any other social media, but you cannot represent the board on behalf of your own opinion, and you cannot go against the violation of what the authorities say. If you don't like what the chair said, you don't just turn around and say, well, I'm going to do it anyhow. There's a certain order in any organization. That's the problem. It's the arrogance and the defiance to this day. Listen to them. The defiance that I have the right, Cho says. I have the right to do it. No, you don't. We are 50 members of the board, and the board speaks as a voice, and the chair speaks for the board. One individual member can't take it into their own hands to do what they want to do. It's the defiance and that arrogance and the fact that he created a fake page, a counterfeit page representing us. That's what it's about.
I have a question to John.
Hold on. Let Frank get back up here. And do me a favor, Frank, our board members at the other place can't hear, so when they ask a question, could you repeat it, then they can hear.
Fair enough, fair enough. Terrence.
John, I'm Asian American Voters Alliance president. I'm sort of working for all the registered voters of AAPI. In your opinion, if I'm not doing a good job, are you going to take our organization logo and create Facebook and do the same thing against my organization and my people and me?
Am I allowed to respond?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's answering your question, John. Oh, he's answering the question.
Terrence, you know I would never do that because you are doing a great job. And I know I hurt Chuck's feelings, but this is not about ego. This whole hearing shouldn't be about one person feeling hurt. It should be about the law and about policy. It should be about violation of specific rules. If you cannot find a specific charter rule that I violated, a law that I violated, a policy I violated, this whole process is bogus. This whole process is about someone's opinion over another person's opinion who is popular in this playground. Is that what this is coming out to? You think someone's more popular than me and you're going to vote me out? Or are we going to talk about the law? Or are we going to talk about policy, about specific rules that I violated? Come on, we're not kids anymore. Let's be adults.
John, in case there's another question, please stand
The bylaws, Article 10, subsection 4, the allegation was, because no one should represent the board without the chairman's approval. And we disseminate, like I said, health and safety information, and that could be misleading to people looking elsewhere for it. Jim?
I just want clarification. Where did this come from, this logo? Who owns this logo?
The New York City owns that logo.
So how did it get onto Facebook?
It was hijacked.
Okay, I just want clarification. This logo, I'm not allowed to take this logo and make up my own Facebook page.
No, that's against the city
That's
law.
what I want to know. Thank you.
Okay.
I just, with all that's going on here, I think we're forgetting one major thing. We all took an oath. 50 board members, we all took an oath, and we have to stand by that oath. And it includes everything we're talking about.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I think
Let's
we
stay
can
with
add that.
questions, please. Discussion on the motions is different, and that's what should happen. We got question only, please.
Cody, questions?
Yeah, again, kind of similar to the last attachment you just gave us. I see the
I'm
board,
having trouble hearing you.
I see the board's letter to Commissioner Johnson, but I don't see their response. I was wondering if we have a printout sent out of Commissioner Johnson's response from Chairman Kelty's letter, because again, like the last attachment, we only have the board's letter, not the
No,
response.
he called us and told us that the Facebook, I'm sorry, excuse me. He called us at the board office and stated that the Facebook was taken down. And he said, and I explained to him that I'd asked Mary, okay, let me go for clarification. I didn't open up any Facebook accounts. I did not authorize anybody to open up a Facebook account. What I did was somebody that had Facebook said, you know, Gene, there's stuff on Facebook saying something about Community Board 7 official one. I said, well, they can put it on if it's community. He says, no, it has the official logo on it. I says, okay, now we have a problem. I called DOI, I sent him the letter, and he said he would investigate it. He and his assistant came in and spoke to me and the district manager at the time, and Chuck, and we sat, since he's the first vice chair, we sat there and I explained to him what was going on. I said, under no circumstances did I authorize this. I said, I've tried 3 or 4 times to speak to Facebook to take it down, and their protocol is we don't talk to anybody that's not the administrator. I ended up with that and I said, you have my permission, I want the Facebook taken down because I don't know who it belongs. Then I asked the board to call everybody and make sure that we didn't do anything that somebody did by accident and stuff like that. I then grabbed John Cho prior to a board meeting. I sat him down at a table. I had him out there as a witness, and I said, John, you're the only one that didn't answer me regarding the Facebook page. I said, I just want to know, did you create the Facebook page? I want it taken down. That's all I want. Otherwise, I'm going to have to take action. I said, I will send it to DOI. And his answer to me is, Gene, you have to do what you have to do. That was the end of it. He didn't acknowledge, he didn't say he didn't do it, he didn't say he did it. He just said, Gene, you'll have to do what you have to do. That was from his words. I then called DOI, sent the letter, sent it to them. In about maybe 3-4 months, they called us on the phone, said, Gene, the Facebook page has been taken down. There will be no more. They have a red flag on this that only a community board chairperson or the district manager will have an authorization on any community board 7 Facebook in the future.
Okay, so there's no paper trail with your correspondence with DOI. Like all we have is this.
I just told you what happened. So you're saying that
But
I'm
there's no
lying?
like letters or emails or anything.
No.
Yeah.
And I would love to do that, but as you saw from the conflict of interest, they don't even talk to me. So yes, I would like that. Yes, you're absolutely right.
Thank you.
Any questions? Go ahead.
I think it's definitely not okay to use other people's logos. I think that's normal. Okay. Other organizational,
I'm sorry.
any logo you cannot use it without the.
Someone was pointing out that you can't use the city logo.
Any logo, it not belongs to
That's
you.
right.
You cannot use it.
Only
without
the agency
approval of
had.
the organization.
Only the agency had.
And I just want to make sure that you did talk to John
Yes.
about this
In front of Matt.
issues.
Yes.
And she did not say yes or no.
Correct.
And then at the end you found it out and then you removed it.
No,
No.
but
What happens is,
at the end, he admitted that it wasn't.
no. What happens is, he said to me, Gene, do what you have to do. I gave a warning that I was sending it to the DOI, Department of Investigation, so that he knew that I was serious. And if he said to me, Gene, I did, and my answer is just take it down. He didn't. And that's what happened on the June 14th meeting. That's where he acknowledged that he made the Facebook page.
I'm here that I'm not talking about remove the members. I think it's honesty. It's honesty and about any bias, it's law or not law. I don't care. Okay, it's honesty as a board member.
Just a question right now. Just hold the comments, we'll discuss it, but is there a question on the Facebook page? That's what we're talking about.
Very good. Thank you.
Hold that for discussion, please.
Okay,
Thank you.
Larry.
Is there not a law, section 2800 D7 of the charter, that obligates this community board to adopt bylaws which are then enforceable?
Yes. Yes, and there were all violations of the bylaws, especially this one. Article 10, subchapter 4, which states you can't do anything unless you're authorized by the community board to speak or represent the board.
So there is a law that's being violated here.
Yes, it's a bylaw that's being violated. Thank you, Larry, for clarifying that. I'm gonna move on to the next allegation.
I think since I was accused in this horse fight and stuff, I would just like to clarify some stuff as how the board operates, okay? As the chairman of the board for the 15 years, okay? I operate, as I always said, I operate at the pleasure of the board, okay? I follow your directions and stuff like that. I've been accused of doing stuff such as the transit thing in Flushing. When there's nobody around to have a fast meeting and discuss that, my opinion is that you people gave the trust to the chair of the board, whoever the chair of the board is, to vote to work in favor of the benefit of the board. I've had a person from the bid came to me and said he has a problem with this. I spoke to them. I understood what he said. I was in consultation with the council person. He was not in favor of this. And we tried to get DOT to work effectively with that. I believe I spoke to our transit chairperson, Warren, that's not correct? Yes. I spoke to him, so again, I don't operate in the vacuum. You may not see what I do, but I do, and I reach out to my committee chair heads quite often at times when I do things. So, yes, I didn't have a meeting. Yes, I personally didn't ask John how he felt about it. I didn't ask you, I didn't ask you, I didn't ask you. If you people had a problem, you have every right, and I had it built into the bylaws, that I believe if 5 board members have a problem and want to have a meeting, the chair cannot turn that down. The chair has to have a meeting together to bring it to the full board for discussion. That's in the bylaws. Him, you should thank, because he had me do the bylaws several years ago, because he said nobody got the bylaws. So I said, you're absolutely right. I gave the bylaws to everybody, and every year we get bylaws. This year we gave bylaws again and new addresses and stuff because we had new members come on the board, but we had to give it to everybody so that everybody got all the new information. But the chair of a board operates for the board when we can't get together. And if something is diametrically wrong, then it's up to the board or the executive board to go after the chair and be held accountable. That has never happened yet. Okay? And if somebody did ask a question, I would retaliate. I wouldn't retaliate, I'm sorry. I'd reiterate to you what I did and why I did it. If I felt that it was cataclysmic, I would then say, okay, let's get a committee together right away. Warren brought to my attention the air train. I put him on the air train. I got him working on that one. Yes, John, I did hear you about the social committee. I put Zoe in charge of that, and we're working on it. I have a special committee with 4 people on it. I didn't want a large committee, but I told them this board is here to disseminate information, not to have social media gatherings and talk and just chat on the way. That's not what we're here for. We handle issues and we disseminate information. Matt and Mary and our other 2 board members, staff, Mary Z and Ann, all send out emails to civic groups, business groups, houses of worship, and stuff like that. Anytime I get anything from the borough president's office or anything from the mayor's office, it gets sent out immediately to all the things. Max sends it to me. I said, send it out. We send it out. We work by civic groups, business groups, block groups, and stuff like that. If you're an independent person to live on a block, you're not going to get it from me. I'm sorry, that's not how we operate. We work as a community. We work with civic groups, business groups, and stuff like that. That's how the board goes, okay? That's how it's gone in the past. I haven't heard anybody object to that, with the exception of John today, who objected that I don't do social media and stuff. But I'm not here to have course discussion with people. My answer is you've got to get out there, you've got to get the information out, and we hope that the civic groups, business groups, or whatever passes along to their group. And we hope that everybody joins the group. So that was my answer to his attack that I just got.
All right. So the special committee unanimously found that the respondent did create this fake Facebook page and account in the name Community Board 7 without authorization, merely as a fact of his own admittance. And that is fact number 2 that we've accepted. Allegation number 3, Mr. Cho's attendance at Community Board 7 public hearings, committee hearings, and issues regarding voting did not meet the requirements and obligations of a board member. The alligator entered into evidence CB7 regular meeting and committee meeting minutes showing member attendance for 3 years, extending from April 2018 through March 2021. During that period, respondents' combined average attendance record was less than 60%. In addition, respondent also left many meetings early, avoiding voting at all. An abstention of a vote without a conflict of interest is improper. according to our bylaws. Additionally, leaving a public hearing prior to voting is not fulfilling your responsibility as a board member. Pursuant to the city charter, an appointed member may be removed from community board for cause, which shall include substantial non-attendance at board or committee meetings over a period of 6 months by a majority vote of the community board. New York City Charter, subsection 2800B. CB7's bylaws impose the duty of the respondent to vote on all matters presented to Community Board 7 for a vote, except where there is a conflict of interest. Community Board 7 bylaws, Article 10, subsection 1 and 3. Failure to vote in the absence of a conflict of interest is improper. Leaving meetings early so as to avoid voting is also improper. By having had substantial non-attendance at board or committee meetings over a period of 3 years and having had poor voting record, respondent violated his duties as a member of Community Board 7 and constitutes a cause for removal. The special committee unanimously finds that the respondent did not meet the requirements and obligations of the board member with regard to voting. And I'm just going to add a little something to this, that we all recognize that people have had attendance problems and issues, and they are clearly not to the magnitude and of what we see here in John's case, especially on the public hearing voting and leaving before meeting. Many of us, I'm sure, want to leave sometimes before the meetings are over. I'll give Mr. Pellion his 3 minutes after, and then.
Thank you. So, what we handed out right now is a summary sheet which quantifies the meetings that we attended, and then there's the attendance breakdowns that you have on the other sheets. You've all been there, your board members. You've heard the votes, you heard the absences, you heard when he left early, you heard the conflicts or non-conflict votes. I'm not going to go into that. I think you all have a very good opinion for yourselves of what you felt and what you've discussed amongst ourselves. The other thing for a gentleman that talks about so much being concerned about the public and so much being outreach and so much involved, he leaves meetings early. So when the public gets up to speak on the public participation, he's not there. So much for concern. So much for worrying about the community. He doesn't even stay to the end of the meeting. When you, the public, comes out and the public says they want to speak, he's gone. What you see here is that in the public hearings, in the 3-year total, he was there for 77%. I'll talk about that number in a second. Committees, 38% of the committees. Total and aggregate, 59%. So just about 60% of the meetings of what he did, and then if you take it on an annual basis of public hearings and committees, 59%, 56%, 50%. So it's right there about 60% as a number. But take a look at 2020. It's one of the, I think it's the next to the last page on the packet that was handed out. And it starts with the date is 10/26/20. It's a public meeting, and it was about the AKA Monsignor Tosi. And if you look at the vote, and I think it's highlighted for you, arrived at the meeting sometime around 8:05, missed the vote. 11/9/20, there was something about the DSNY site on 31st Avenue, no vote. 12/7/2020, about the zonal closing flooding, that was in College Point, if I'm mistaken, left early, did not vote. 11/1/11/21, back in January, left the meeting somewhere around 7:55. And in 5/10/21, just a few months ago, discussion about 3621 Prince Street, left early, did not vote. And there's, I think on the following page, some more discussion on 2021. There was a public hearing on 5/10, left meeting early, did not contact the office or channel with explanation. So, you know, I think The point that's being made, again, in toto, this isn't a specific charge, this isn't the only charge that's coming up, and you have to make a delimited decision right now just on one of these 3, 4, 5 items. But you see a pattern of indifference, a pattern of defiance, a pattern of arrogance, a pattern of non-committal, under yet still, oh, but I'm here for everybody. And by the way, Terrence, he didn't answer your question. Your question before to him was, if I didn't do a good job, would you take over? And his answer was, no, Terrence, I wouldn't do that to you because you're doing a good job. That wasn't the question. The question was, what if you weren't doing a good job? He didn't answer the question. Avoidance, defiance, arrogance.
John?
Well, if I wanted to learn about arrogance and avoidance, I'd take a master class from you, Chuck. I think that, you're welcome. So, I'm now being kicked off because I've quote-unquote a poor attendance record. It's interesting that this chart that you gave us includes committee meetings, which I don't even know what committees I'm on. It's actually one of the first complaints I made to Chuck, which I make every year. Chuck, Gene, sorry, I meant Gene. Gene, when can I get a list of my committee appointments? Because it seems to change on a constant basis. I don't even know what the committees are that I'm on. So for you to include committee meetings that I don't even have a say in or know about, I'm sorry, did I interrupt you? Sorry Chuck, did I interrupt you? I'm sorry. Is this an example of your arrogance?
John, I'll stop him, then you can go. I'll stop him. You're not the moderator, I'm in charge.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm glad you're taking charge, Gene.
Okay.
I am curious how my quote-unquote poor attendance record compares to all the other community board members here. Where is the table that compares my attendance with everyone here? I'm sure everyone's attendance record here is very exemplary, and I have the only attendance record where I have quote-unquote half the meetings not being attended, which is totally bogus, again, because I don't even know which committees I'm on. The bylaws specifically state that I can be kicked off for poor attendance in a 6-month period. So I would like to know, in the past 6 months, how does my poor attendance record compare to everyone here on the committee board? Please show us that information, because I'd love to make sure we are making a decision that is fair and equitable, not based on some distorted statistic that you're providing on a chart that is manipulated with meetings that I didn't even know about. As for my voting record, there seems to be confusion here between voting to abstain without conflict, which is a no vote, and not voting at all. When I have all the information I need and the issue is clear, I do vote yes or no. And you have seen me vote yes and no. Please don't take Chuck's word for it. But if there is not enough information and the issue is not clear, I vote to abstain. That is my right as a committee board person. It's your right as a committee board member to also abstain. You do not have to vote just the way Chuck tells you to vote. Trust me, you have a right as a member, as an independent member, to vote how you please, yes, no, or abstain. I have done that. I have voted yes, no, or abstain. To imply that I'm missing votes, again, you are stretching the truth to find a way to kick me off this board. And I find that arrogant. Thank you, Chuck, for that lesson.
By the way, board members, I just want to be clear about something. That agendas are sent out to people that are on the committee. Okay? If your name is on the committee agenda, you are supposed to be there, or you're supposed to contact the committee chairperson and the board office and tell them if there is a problem. There are times that several board members couldn't attend an agenda, and we had to cancel the meeting and then reschedule again. But you know what committee you're on, because your name is on the committee agenda when it's sent to your house.
We all know that. We get once a year at least, we get the committee.
Excuse me, and the second thing is, you people are not on trial here. His attendance is on trial. We want to do everybody else, that's fine, but right now, his attendance is what comes up. So when he brings out what everybody else is, we are not on trial here because you have been not questioned on it. This board gives out attendance records usually in June before we go on hiatus, and then in December before the end of the year, so that you know what your attendance is, how to improve it, not how to improve it, and that also gets forwarded to the council person and to the borough president's office. For those that are new, that don't understand that, that's what happens. I'm sorry.
All right, I'm just saying that the committee's structure is sent out, and every committee meeting has a notice that's sent to the members.
I was going to say that for 20 years on this board, I have always received my committee assignments. Sometimes I didn't even know what the committee was about, but I learned. And also, we also get the email addresses, and it specifically says to be used only for...
Okay, thank you.
Well, there's one other thing. I resented what he said, that we don't post the information. When I get something that, it's true, I use my opinion, that I think is important, I put it on my bulletin board of my co-op. And if somebody says to me, Mrs. Moses, what is it? And I try to explain it to them as well as I can. If I can't, I will get it.
You don't need to defend yourself.
No, I'm not saying that, but I pretended that because I do it. And I get someone who speaks English, and many of the people in my development do speak English, and they will translate for me. So we do that in our development.
Thank you. Any questions? Cody.
Yeah, just a little, I guess more for clarity.
Just a little hot, yeah.
Yeah, for clarity, just in the text about allegation number 3, you guys are talking about attendance through April 2018. But again, the packet that we got only has 2019, 2020, and 2021 attendance. I know last year was a pandemic, we're still kind of in it, so you know, try to be lenient and generous with kind of my opinions about attendance in that period. But again, just wondering why there's this inconsistency mentioning April 2018, but we don't have 2018 numbers. Also, I know John has been a board member since before these dates, so why would we look
Give me
into
1 second. Underneath this, I have my handwritten notes, and I might have made a mistake.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
My handwritten notes.
Those are my favorite kind.
We have virtual meetings.
Because, yeah, I just also assume maybe the average would be different, because again, the text in allegation number 3 does mention under 60%, this says 59%, but again, the years are different, so just an issue of clarity.
I believe it's a typo.
What is the typo?
Well, it's not a typo. I left the information out. I left the line out. All right, we'll clarify that.
Yeah, how come you didn't dip into years before 2018? And also, I think that bylaws do mention the 6-month period. So I guess, yeah, why so many years but not all the years? Things like that.
Sure.
What John mentioned was that one of the provisions for removal is a 6-month attendance lapse. It's not the only reason, but that provides cause and that can be done. And he is correct, and since I presented the data, I think I concur with Frank. I think what should be in the report was April 2019, not 2018. I did not provide any evidence. It was more of an overall view versus trying to pinpoint, especially with pandemic and things going on, to show that there was a pattern.
But I think, again, because it is a pandemic, it probably would be helpful to have those years before 2020, because I know.
Well, that's why 19 and 20 are in there, and the pandemic took into that play.
I mean, yeah, I guess, but still, the majority of this time is like pandemic era.
No.
Okay, that's a point of information. It's a point of information. Stop. We didn't miss anything in 2019. The first 3 months, January, February, and March, we had public hearings. It was in March of that year that they went into hiatus where they said we cannot have public meetings.
No, that was
No, that's 2020.
I'm sorry, I apologize. You're right, I'm thinking of 20. But we still met in 20, then we went virtual, so we didn't miss a gap in all of July of 2020. I'm sorry.
You didn't intend to look at data from you didn't intend to look at any of the data from 2018 or 2017 or 2016, and that was even the 2018 was written.
I only presented the last 3 years as something that's more relevant time period.
Okay, wait, so then I'm confused what the typo is actually, because you left out the 2018 information, or you meant to write 2019 in the special committee report?
I meant to write 2019.
Okay.
2018 was not submitted.
Okay, because at first I thought Brent said he left out the 2018 data. I thought.
This is what was submitted to the committee, is what's submitted to you.
And that's what I tried to illustrate in here. The special committee, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Right. I was a committee chair 3 times. One time.
You have to stand up,
I'm
please.
sorry. I think John's dedicated. I won't get to know him personally. He's committed to his community. My frustration with John is his.
No. Question.
Question
This
is,
isn't
I vote
discussion.
all the time. I'm going to vote in the committee. We spent 4 hours in the committee, and I asked him directly, why would you vote? He said, I don't have to tell you. I said, 4 hours, we discussed it, and you don't have a decision? I think you have to make a decision. That's
Yes.
my frustration.
All right. Question? All right, let's move on then. Allegation number 3, we just did. Moving on to allegation number 4. Shall publicly defame community board 7 members and community board as a whole on several occasions. The alligator entered into evidence a flyer dated July 18, 2021, supporting the New York City Council campaign of the respondent, and which states that community board 7Q is corrupt. Alligator testified about being defamed by a respondent. Joe Sweeney of Community Board 7 member testified about a Community Board 7 meeting held with respect to the Flushing Special Waterfront District, during which he heard respondents state that Community Board 7 members were being paid off. Community Board 7 member Joe Sweeney entered into evidence an article published by the New York Post dated March 20, 2020, in which respondent claimed that Community Board 7 was corrupt, and that the members were being paid off. All of the aforementioned statements made by the respondent are false statements. If the respondent actually believed that there was corruption was real, and then he would have had to report it to the authorities for investigation and prosecution. The respondent's failure to do so demonstrates his acting carelessly within the standards of negligence. The statements ascribed to Community Board 7 and its members' activity are negligent and therefore defamatory. The special committee unanimously finds that the respondent did intentionally harm the reputation of Community Board 7 and its members. I'm going to ad-lib here, and I think I started off with that. There are almost 50 members of this community board who are very dedicated, spend an awful lot of time supporting the community. And for you to broad stroke the whole community board it's heartbreaking to me, not only for myself, but for people like Selma and who've been here many years and that dedicated so much time and have to have their time besmirched, their reputations besmirched by broadcast. So we found that this was a defamation of the board, and that was a cause for removal. Joe?
All right, you've got packets now that are being handed out about this. Let's start with the first page, highlighted in yellow. Our corrupt Community Board 7. Everybody here. By the way, including him, because he's part of Community Board 7. So in toto, he's saying that the Community Board is corrupt. Baseless, there's no charges, there's no allegations, there's no proof. Excuse me, there are allegations, but there's no proof. Let me be clear, because he's going to get up, and let's just get in front of it right away. They've got the posters, you've heard it before. I am not the first person, and I won't be the last person to recuse myself from a vote. And I did. And he's trying to make a case, point to the sign, go ahead, point to the sign. He's trying to make a case that because I was recused and I was working on a development project, by the way, for 6 years. Not just last week, 6 years. For 6 years, everybody in the community knew that I was working on the special Flushing waterfront district. I was actually working for one of the owners of the site before they sold it, and then I continued working on it. Everybody in government knew about it. I made it very clear. When it came to the committee, anytime I spoke, I did the letter of the law, which many people don't. I stood up and I said, before I speak, I want to let you know that I will not be voting because I have a conflict of interest. And why you're supposed to say that in the beginning is that you don't want someone to hear you speak for days and weeks and months, and then all of a sudden time for the vote, and Chuck goes, I'm recusing. You're like, well, wait a minute, I didn't know you were recusing. The question then becomes, well, how do I know what you were saying wasn't tainted because you're a consultant versus your pure, honest opinion? So when you go in front of a committee, in front of a board, and you say right from the get-go, I am recusing, then it's up to you to decide whether I'm selling something because I'm a paid consultant or I'm selling something because it's the best thing for the community board. That's for you to determine, and that was up there. He turns around and says, I was caught. Caught? How could it be caught? I admitted to it right from the beginning. There was no caught. And you're allowed to recuse. I am not the first person on this board that's done it. It's been done for years and years, and that's what the provision is allowed for. By the way, I even had a waiver from the conflict of interest explaining what could be done and what not could be done. Now, let's go down, and you'll see some screenshots which I want you to look at. There's one of the first ones here says, was caught taking consulting fees. Not true. And he goes on and on into this conversation, and I bring particular attention to the fact when he was reappointed in April, and this will be my third term. I'm worried about many of the concerns I've raised about Community Board 7, including corruption, lack of accountability and transparency, and the general dysfunction. Again, in writing, libelous statements about Community Board 7 in toto. He was asked at the borough president's hearing when he accused the board of being corrupt, and he said many board members. And the borough president asked him, well, specifically, do you have names? No, I don't. But many of them were. This is the old technique that people use when they want to just get it out there. It's like, I talk about the old, take a wet towel and throw it on the wall. If you throw enough wet towels on the wall, one of them's going to stick. And it goes to the same thing when you go in front of a jury. You try to influence a jury, and you make a comment, and the judge says, strike that last comment. Guess what? You already know what you said. There's no striking it. There's no erase feature. There's no back feature on their minds. So right away, the taint has been planted. And that's what he does. He tries to paint and plant a taint against the community board without proof or evidence. I'm giving you proof. His writing. And the last one, this one that's a full page that's completely black with reverse copy. Pay for John Cho for us. His campaign went against us. He made a rally just at the beginning of early voting. He made a rally in front of the community board office and then told everybody, let's go around the corner to the boys club and vote, and early voting started. But he had to start in front of the community board to end corruption. What corruption? There's no proof. This is wrong. This goes to the heart of every single one of you. I'm done. It goes to the heart of every single one of you here because he said that the community board is corrupt. Everyone sitting here, everyone, with him, against him, whatever, including him, because he is still now a member of the community board. We are all corrupt. I take tremendous, tremendous offense to that. And then the final page was, after the primary, he still had to turn around. Can't get enough of it. It has them there today. They're in there behind. You saw the signs upstairs. You see the signs now. We're corrupt. The politically motivated smears from Community Board 7 leadership. There's no politics involved. If he has proof that someone is corrupt on Community Board 7, file charges. Go to the DOI, go to COIB, bring charges, bring evidence. There are none. I say to you, we're not on trial. But he's making it about us. Instead, it's him making the accusation. I take tremendous offense for all of us that we're being branded that way. We work hard, and it's not right.
John?
Bravo, Chuck. That's a great performance. I think you are the victim here, somehow. It's interesting that this very serious allegation of defamation is being brought against me. If it's actually true that I defamed you, Chuck, why have you not sued me in a court of law? Huh? Why are you playing the victim here and not suing me when you perfectly could if you have all the evidence, all of this amazing scholarly work that you've presented to us?
Is that rhetorical? Would you like an answer?
Can you please stop interrupting me?
You asked the question. I'm asking you.
I'm not really gonna accept your arrogance at this point. You can just keep your mouth zipped until I...
John, you will not have that comments, okay? Please, you asked him a question, he responded, you said, no, it's rhetorical. Move forward. Thank you.
I think anyone with any smarts would know that was not a question aimed at you, Chuck. Come on, be serious here. If Chuck believes I defamed him, again, he's welcome to sue me in a real court. Not this kangaroo court, this sham proceeding, this show trial. He hasn't because no judge would take this allegation seriously. He would literally be laughed out of the courthouse. First, Chuck himself admitted that he took money from developers because he recused himself repeatedly from voting on land use matters multiple times. He said that. I did not say that. He recused himself. Me pointing that out is not defamation. Jesus.
Wrong place.
Did he just say Jesus?
Yes.
No, I don't.
Phoenix, sure.
I wouldn't go on.
Chair, are you going to allow these interruptions?
I just told him.
I'm sorry.
Millicent is upset you're taking God's name in vain and learning the church. Please don't use God's name. That would be all. Thank you.
I understand how desperate you are, Chuck. Please keep interrupting me if you want, but let me please finish it as quickly as I can because I know what's going to happen. Well, I think we all know what's going to happen here. We knew what was going to happen 6 months ago. You taking money from developers, that's public record. You admitted it yourself. Me stating that and emphasizing that and highlighting that, I'm not defaming you, Chuck. Get over yourself. At the Borough President's hearing, I did say that the taking of money from developers with business before our board is corrupting the integrity of our land use process. I said that. Now, if you are a regular person walking on the street and you heard that the land use chair of a public agency is taking money from the developers that he is overseeing and reviewing, would you think that's corruption? Plain English definition of corruption? Come on. I'm not the only one saying this, Chuck. This is something that is growing in the community, that people think that you are the source of corruption in this community board. And I'm not attacking everyone. I'm actually taking responsibility and saying that stop this practice. Chuck just said he's not the first one. I'm surprised. Why are we letting our members take money from developers who have business before our board? That's not a practice of integrity. That doesn't give confidence to the public that we have members here years ago and now currently sitting right here beside me taking money from developers. He's saying for 6 years. How much money, Chuck? $50? $500? $50,000?
How much?
$500,000?
Excuse me. That's the last time I'm going to tell you. The next time you're going out. Okay, officers, the next time he makes that statement, he's leaving. Sorry. Thank you. Again, this is a public meeting, not a public comment period. I'm not going to tell you again. Please stop. Thank you. Sorry.
And Chuck, this is not the end of the process here. I have requested investigations. You have no idea. The FBI has subpoenaed documents and investigated this board. There are public agencies looking at this community board. You should all be aware that I am not the first person to bring up this allegation, that we have problems with the way we make decisions on land use issues. I'm just being very honest. I have nothing at stake here. I'm not friends with Chuck. I don't have any problems not being invited to his Christmas parties. I'm telling you the truth, and I'm the only one that will stand up today and tell it to your face, Chuck. Stop taking money from developers. If you don't want to be called corrupt, just stop taking money from developers. Kicking me off the board, it's not going to stop that. It's not going to stop people from telling you that you are creating corruption on this community board. I am urging everyone on this community board, if you want to sleep at night, don't allow Chuck to manipulate you and kick me off, because what happens to me can happen to you. If you don't toe the line, as Councilmember Cruz said, I'm not playing ball, so I shouldn't be on this board. That's not the way we should have community boards. Community boards should have a diversity of opinion, a diversity of perspectives, different ways of looking at addressing the needs in our community, not just have one or two people dictate to us how we vote, how we go to meetings, and how we make decisions. This is not a dictatorship. This is not an opportunity for a few members to abuse their power. It took more than a decade to bring down Andrew Cuomo for his abuse of power. Today is only the beginning. Watch out, Chuck. You're next.
Any questions? I just know that it seems to be a difference between a conflict of interest and corruption.
Larry, legal. Conflict of interest. As long as if somebody has a conflict of interest on our board, or any board, they must first announce it to the board members that they have a conflict, that they will be participating or may not be participating, but they will not be voting, and they will be removed from the vote because they do not count. Is that not correct? Excuse me.
I think it is, but I'm not prepared to opine formally on that.
Okay.
I believe so.
Okay, because in the borough president's comment, when that was brought up under the land use issue that came before the borough presidents, board member Sweeney and I were there. The borough president, you'll see it in the sheets that are in here, stated that he followed the procedures of the conflict of interest. And he has to say it. He has to say it every time he attends a meeting. He cannot say it once and it gets like caregiving and it goes for the rest of the year. Every time a board member that has a conflict, anytime that is brought up, the board member must say that they have a conflict, that they will or will not be speaking on it, and they will not be voting on it, and that number is will be removed from it. I can tell you for a fact, let me finish please, for the new board members, myself, Kim O'Hanian, and Nick Corrado all have to abstain every year when we do the budget because it deals with the fire department and DEP's budget. This year and the last 3 years, and I think Kim didn't retire last year, was the only time we were able to vote on it. Otherwise, we would say in the beginning that we will be talking on the budget, but we will not be voting because it's a conflict. And we've always tried to stay exactly to that. Sometimes we got to the end because we didn't realize it had a fire department or a police department or something in it. But we were required, every year board members that are senior board members know that me, Kim, and Nick Corrado all have to abstain because of conflict. Is that not correct, Nick?
Yes, yes. Just let me say something before you question.
I'm sorry, Cody, you were asking me, I'm sorry?
Chapter's on record urging all the community boards to vote for it. Is that allowed even with stating like conflict of interest?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's part, I looked it up, I'm sorry to bring it, but it's part of the administrative code of the city of New York. It is allowed.
Yes.
I was chair of that particular committee, and I had the paper, I wish I brought it with me. It is allowed.
And every elected official in the council.
If I said no, Chuck could turn around and sue the city and
The council does it, everybody does it, Cody. I know you're relatively new, but that was given to us that when we can talk, but we have to first acknowledge that we have a conflict, that we will be speaking or not speaking, but we will not be voting on it. Because we have a right to comment, but we can't vote on our own budget.
One of the requirements of being on the community board is that you need to have an interest in the community. And that's if you live here, you work here, you own property, you have a direct interest in the community. I'm not going to say that that will always lend you to direct conflict, but any of you who are homeowners, and we may discuss a property tax issue, that is going to affect you, and there could be a conflict of interest. So, by the nature of having a community board and your qualification to be on here is that you have a direct interest in the community somehow. So there can always tend to see a conflict. You want to answer?
Yes, I just wanted to clarify. We always have a number of architects and engineers on the board who may work on projects in the community.
And they have one was that just got taken off the board, Bill Salem. Numerous times said I'm going to.
So would that be the same situation where they're paid?
What services did you provide?
Yes.
The architect? I don't know.
Well, he worked for one of the guys that were coming before the board on the project, and he had to recuse himself from voting because he said, I'm working on this project for Sheldon Left or Matone or something like that. And where it might have been or not been, he didn't want to take that chance because of his architectural license or engineering license. So he made it known, recused himself, said that he would speak if they asked him, but he said, I'm not voting on it.
A million years ago, there was a property that I was going to get invited to bid on that was being, that was coming for a land use issue. And I stepped away. I made it clear I didn't want to lose the opportunity to bid on that project. So I stepped away from the whole vote and the whole scenario.
Why are there so many people employed by real estate?
I'm sorry, you're not allowed to ask questions. I'm sorry, you're not allowed to ask questions.
All right, so any more questions on this, on item number 3? On item number 4?
Excuse me.
There's a question here too.
Mike, can you please turn that camera away from my direction? You've been pointing towards me all night.
Why is he videotaping this?
Because videotaping is allowed.
Yeah, but
Jim,
it's
videotaping is allowed.
all night.
Videotaping is allowed.
But he's aiming it this way.
You're in a public setting.
Joe?
Yes, so I was involved with the project at Flushing. I was the chair of it for about 10 or 15 years. And so I just want to say, I'm going to give a little commentary.
No,
I'm not commenting. No, I'm going to say something and then I'm going to ask 3 questions. I think, because to proceed, I'm going to take me 1 minute. So it said at the borough president's office, it turned around and he said here to the borough president, John Cho, that they are paying certain community board members to be quote unquote consultants for this, which was totally false information. Because then the borough president turned around and went to him, basically said, are you saying this? People on Port 7 taking money and all that? He said, well, I'm not sure which one, basically, but I know that Chuck is taking one, et cetera, et cetera. But the borough president, when we had the public hearing, I thought the borough president was kind of like swayed at first. I don't know what she was thinking, but she's thinking, what's going on with that board? The next thing that happened is that in the New York Post had a headline, and it said in New York Post, locals are livid over the rig development in the Flushing Creek in Queens. I was shocked to find out about this was rigged. My brother ended up calling me and said, oh, you're making a lot of money. I said, what are you talking about? I said, look at the Post. Peter Lane, a former Community Board 7 member, called me up at home and said, oh, what's going on? Were you taking money? All right. And so,
you gotta get to the question.
I have the last one, and I'm going to say, the last one here, he has one more article, because I'm going to ask a question, Gene. It says, what I was pointing to was that the corrupt nature of what was going on, with developers pouring in millions of dollars, including paying community board members. So, my question now, and then of course I saw this, which I was outraged, my question is this. It is incumbent on the community board member, it's the law, to turn around and then go to the district attorney's office, or go to the FBI, or go to the Department of Investigation. It was never done because it was false information. He was not allowed to go to
Joe, question.
So the question is to John, why after many of these allegations, didn't you go to the authorities? It was your responsibility to do it. That's my question.
Okay, Johnny wants to know why you, where are you, John?
He's back there.
John, I'm sorry. You want to please, you'd like to know why you didn't go to a public authority such as the DA or the DOI?
As I stated earlier, I have requested investigations, and this is only the beginning of the process. Trust me. Just because you're going to kick me out tonight, you're not going to get the end of this.
John, who did you go to is the question. Who did you bring our attention to?
I don't have to tell you where I went to. Here we go.
Okay. All right. His answer is he doesn't have to tell us. That's it. Is that not what you said, John? So, again, is that what you said, John? You don't have to tell us? I'm just...
I know he's threatened.
All I can tell you is that I have read that there was a federal investigation of this community board. The FBI subpoenaed documents around land use issues. It's not me saying that. That's a fact.
John, when? When?
Read the paper.
What year?
Excuse me, I'm the chair of the board, and I'm asking you the question you just made an accusation on. What year was that thing done?
I'm making something up about that.
You're saying to me that we were done. I'm asking you when.
You're the chair. You don't know the FBI is investigating you?
No, they didn't call me up, John. I'm sorry. I'm not on the speed dial for the FBI, nor I am for CIA or anybody else. I'm asking you, please, could you tell us what that is? You made a statement.
You are so out of touch. You don't know when the FBI is
I
investigating
see.
you?
Okay. All right, John.
Question. Real question.
Go ahead.
Real question. Chuck,
Yes, sir.
have you taken money from the developer? If you did, was it legit? or illegit? Question.
Answer.
Explain to us.
Answer. I did not take money. I was a paid consultant. Big
Okay.
difference. One is corruption, and one is a paid consultant that has a conflict. And I stood up and I said, I have a conflict.
I
And
remember
made it
that
very
you said
clear. And guess what? I didn't vote. I didn't influence. I was in the background. I was a consultant, and I admitted it.
And
There's
that
a-
wasn't legit.
Absolutely. And by the way,
Okay.
one more thing. I did contact Conflict of Interest Board, and they
You
gave
did.
me guidelines to follow, which was given to the group that I was working for, because they were concerned, and it cleared their legal, and it also was exactly what I followed. And Cody asked before, can I speak? Yes, you're allowed to speak once you make the declaration of conflict. You're allowed to speak, you're allowed to say whatever you'd like in support or against or whatever, but you are prevented from voting and you should recuse, and that's what I did. So I did not take money. I was paid as a consultant, just like others are.
Any other questions? Okay, so with regard to the special committee,
I have a question.
oh, go ahead, John.
I just want to ask, because Chuck just said he wasn't trying to influence us. I find that really incredible.
Well, that's personal. Those are on a case-by-case basis. You can only speak for yourself.
I'm not on trial. Let's stop it.
He was not trying to influence us. Chuck, you did not go to any elected officials for the special flood and waterfront district?
No, I'm not on trial.
Really?
No,
You didn't?
I am not on
You're
trial.
saying that you never met with an elected official?
Let's go.
And how much money did you get paid for your consulting work? And what kind of consulting work did you do? Are you an
John,
architect? Are
the
you an
allegations
engineer?
against you, not against Mr. Appellant. That's a nice deflection, John, but that's not going to be answered.
Why
We're
aren't you
interested in
investigating
your-
him? Why aren't you investigating him?
Because he is following the law, something we are going to determine whether you did.
So the special committee unanimously finds that the respondent did intentionally harm the reputation of the community board as a whole and its members. And it's heartbreaking for, like I said before, for all of you people here to go down in one clear broad stroke, and anybody and any individuals here. Okay, allegation number 5. And the final one. Mr. Cho is corrupt. As to the statements made at a February 20th, 2020 Queensborough President Land Use Committee hearing, Mr. Cho said his vote can be bought. The alligator entered into evidence the YouTube video of February 2020 Queensborough President's Land Use Committee hearing in which respondents stated that his vote could be bought. The alligator board member Joe Sweeney, Community Board 7 Chairman Eugene Kent, all testified in support of the comments. And I will give you the committee's finding on that after either of them speaks. Go ahead, Chuck.
At the February 20th, 2020 Queensborough President Land Use hearing, John Cho opened up his testimony. Oh, the transcript is here, by the way. It's in that same packet. Yeah, the exact same packet. It's the same letter and then the attachments. It's the letter to the Commissioner of DOI, and then there's a separate page afterwards that shows the transcript of that hearing. John Cho, I'm speaking against this project, although for the right price, I might be persuaded to change my mind. You know, words matter. And, you know, whether you want to be tongue-in-cheek or not, when you're in a public setting and you're a public official, I just find that you just don't turn around and say, for the right price, I might be persuaded to change my mind. We've all been there. We understand, you know, if you can do certain things, you know, if you came across and you made it less parking or you provided a look, I could change my mind. It happens all the time. It's all part of a discussion, it's all part of a negotiation. But when someone, when someone of public authority and public knowledge and public policy savvy turns and says, for the right price, I might be persuaded to change my mind. That's the wrong choice of words. I don't care what anybody said. Acting Borough President Sharon Lee said, you made a bold statement at the beginning of your testimony. For the right price, you might change your mind. What would that price be? All right, so he did say, I would say 500 units of affordable housing, public park, and EIS. It's the choice of words that you turn around and in the same context, he's accusing the board of being caught, being corrupt, and deflecting all over the place. But for the right price, I can have my vote changed. That just sends the pure wrong message. It should have been, and I understand. And by the way, those who've been here before, when I've been in front of any committee meeting and someone says, I don't like the project, my answer is, vote no. You have that right. I've never said you must vote yes. Vote no. That's your right. By the way, it's not a murder trial where we go in front of everybody for a land use project. It doesn't have to be unanimous. We need a majority. You don't like it, I understand, I respect, vote no. But there has to be a certain language and decorum that's expected of us as community board members and how we present ourselves. And again, in total, I think this ties into the type of behavior, the type of autonomous behavior that he feels he's above the community board and everything else that we have to adhere to. And whatever standards we feel are correct, and even he may say is correct, but then do as I say, not as I do.
Okay, I think we've officially entered the circus part of this proceeding. This shows how utterly divorced from reality Chuck is to say that I have solicited a bribe at a public hearing. Come on. I'm not the one that is spending 6 years getting paid by F&T and other developers. I didn't even know about it until you just told me. That's a long time. You won't tell us how much you got paid? What you actually did? Are you an engineer? Are you an architect? What gives you so much authority that a developer would pay you for 6 years of hard work? And then you had the temerity to tell us, oh, I never influenced anyone on the community board. I never try and criticize someone's vote. You just spent half an hour criticizing the way I voted. You don't like the way I abstain, the way I vote yes or no. You just told me that I don't vote the way you like. Come on. It's not your turn to speak, Chuck, so be quiet.
Again, John, I will tell you not to be disrespectful like that.
I'm just going to end by saying that absurdity upon absurdity, I don't understand how we even got to this point in our committee board. Is this a real committee board? Are you seriously going to allow these types of allegations, totally divorced from reality, to be even considered by us? We are community leaders. Our time is precious. We're spending so much time on an issue that you know is absurd. I would solicit a bribe in front of the borough president in a public hearing? Who does that? Come on. We know how this vote is going to go tonight. It was preordained. If you, the board, votes to kick me off tonight, congratulations, Chuck. The developers have certainly gotten their money's worth tonight. I hope they throw in a Christmas bonus for all the hard work you've done. Thank you so much, Chuck.
John, I just want to ask you a question. You just said something very, very moving. You said we are all leaders and our time is very sensitive. and I've mentioned that a few times tonight, yet you defamed the whole board by saying that the whole community board was corrupt. So you make a statement that our time is sensitive and we're leaders, and then you make statements that we're all corrupt. So I just don't find the consistency in that. But let's move on to the committee's comments on this. The alligator, Mr. Cho was corrupt. The statements made on the February so forth meeting. You know, the committee certainly heard what you said. And those words certainly ring out to have a view of corruption. But and we certainly didn't want to just take personality's sake on it. So we, the committee discussed this, and we unanimously made no finding to the allocation that the respondent was corrupt in that statement because we couldn't judge the full content in which that was made. None of the committee members were there, so we just skipped over that, and we did not make that finding as fact. We made all the other ones. We took the other ones, analyzed them, and we accepted them as fact. But this one here, we did not. So this was not a slam dunk. We took each one separately. I have my recommendations and so forth that I can read, but I think at this point I ask the chair how he wants to proceed or how the board members want to proceed. I could make my recommendation. We could make a motion, or we could decide to make a motion and discuss that.
I believe we should listen to, hear the committee's recommendation first.
If I may just interrupt, before we do that, okay, and I don't have a problem with that, I just want to ask board members, does anybody else have any more questions? Because once the recommendation, I'm not going to take any questions after that. I want to hear you say, well, I didn't, I want to ask that question. So let's make sure that board members have no more questions, and then yes, you can go in and read the rest of the board.
And then there will be discussion.
You have Cody open.
Yeah, Cody.
I guess this is a question for Chuck and maybe the chair, but what's really the intention in introducing this specific allegation? Because it seems a little bit different from the others, and really just makes it seem like it is a personal thing.
I'm sorry, I lost track of what your statement was.
Yeah, just like what was the intention of even adding this to the list
number 5.
Yeah,
okay.
What's the intention of adding number 5 to the list of allegations?
Okay.
It does seem like an outlier. It
Okay.
seems like it makes this
If I may, okay, if I may, I understand, let me stand up, I'm sorry. I may understand what the committee felt on it, that they were not physically there. I had the board extrapolate some of the testimony that you got in the letter. Joe Sweeney, the chair of the committee, and myself were publicly there at that hearing that John testified for. I heard him make those statements. I was mortified. I was absolutely mortified when that happened. And the reason being is, again, whether he likes an issue or doesn't like an issue, that's why we're on the board. Vote yes, vote no, I don't care. The point being is, you don't taint the board. And if he said, excuse me, I'm speaking against the project, although for the right price I'd persuade to change my mind. That says now the chair is going to get up. What do they think the chair of the board is going to say? What do they think the chair of that committee is going to say? So I brought that accusation, and Chuck put it into the things because he personally made those statements in front of me and Joe Sweeney. And I flew out of the room to get a hold of the deputy borough president, the deputy director of community boards at the time, Vicky Marcella, and I said, I want a copy of that YouTube and everything that's on it because I could not believe anybody would make a statement that for the right price they could be bought. Then, as he further went down, he said,
I was there that day, so I know what happened. I was in the room that day as well.
So you didn't hear this, or you did hear it?
I heard it, but I also heard many of the people in the room laugh because the way that it
Well,
was.
the other side of the room, Cody, wasn't laughing.
I understand.
I certainly did laugh. Right. And that's where this issue came from, okay? Does that clarify your question?
Thank you.
Okay.
And when he makes statements that this entire board is corrupt, and then makes that statement, you can see that it belongs in here. As the committee, we didn't want to touch that one.
Can I clarify something she asked also? I am just representing the removal process. This isn't me as a person with a vendetta against John Cho. There have been many discussions over the course of time. It was discussed with the executive committee as long as last summer, 2 summers ago. And it was decided that although there was behavioral issues, to let it lie. And then COVID hit, and it let it lie. And then it went back to the executive committee, and with the approval of the executive committee, this was formulated. This isn't just me as a rogue person on my own bringing charges. The executive committee was fully aware, and it was a unanimous decision by the executive committee to proceed, and that's why it took place. There was also discussion.
Hey, Chuck, stop. You're accusing me of taking money. These people here, he just came over to me and said that I've been taking money from developers. Do you know, I have voted no on every major development that this board has come before.
Jim, relax.
This is crazy.
Jim,
this is crazy.
I like that man removed.
I want it to be challenged. I want it to be challenged that I took money from developers.
Jim, please, easy. Please, officers, please remove that man. They were warned. In the public meeting. Excuse me.
I've never taken a dime, and I voted no against every major development that came from
Jimmy.
Sorry.
I understand. Excuse me. Let's get something straight. I set the tone in the beginning of the meeting. I said this is a public meeting, not a public hearing. I asked the people in the back, you've been very good. I appreciate it. We had a little slips and stuff. I do understand it. But I'm not going to have somebody whistle to my board members. That man is to be removed and go outside. I don't care. I don't want to see that. I don't care what you people feel in the back. That's your opinion. I understand it. But while we're having the meeting, you hold your vote.
Why do you leave it back there?
I don't care when he leaves it back there. That's his problem. Okay? Thank you very much. Thank you, officers. Jimmy, please calm down. Thank you very much. I understand. And again, let's get into the discussion, whatever it is, the motion, let's talk about it. Okay?
One quick follow-up, Cody. Again, there was consensus. This isn't Chuck bringing a charge on my own against John Cho. There was consensus, there was discussion with many board members, and there was a lot of upset from board members, and that's why we got here. Also why, when we went with this 3 steps, as you know, the first was the vote, which needed a supermajority of 75%. That spoke for itself as far as the board sentiment. The second was the committee, and the third is now here. So this isn't me. Again, I don't have a vendetta. It's on the facts and it's on the issues, and that's how it came about. I hope that answers it.
Any more questions on this before I read the recommendations? We discuss it and then see if there's a motion. Okay. I just want to reiterate that the committee has found that they violated the New York City Charter with respect to soliciting funds. We, the committee, found that as a fact. Cho represented on his behalf that created a fake Facebook page. We, the committee, accepted that after discussion as a fact. Cho had poor attendance records and so forth. We, the committee, accepted that as a fact. Cho defamed the community board as a whole and members. We accepted that as a fact. It's in black and white. Number 5, Cho himself is corrupt at the community board. We chose not to address that one, and we did not accept that one as a fact. Okay, the recommendation. Pursuant to the city charter, subsection 2800B, an appointed member may be removed from a community board for cause, which shall include substantial non-attendance at a board or committee meetings over a period of 6 months by a majority vote of the community board. The charter does not provide any further guidance as to what actions constitutes sufficient cause beyond the example of substantial non-attendance at meetings. We accepted that as a fact. Community Board 7 bylaws, Article 17 subsection 2 similarly provides that any appointed member of the board may be removed for cause which shall include substantial non-attendance at a board or committee meeting over a period of 6 months. The bylaws does not provide any further guidance as to what actions constitute insufficient cause beyond the example of substantial non-attendance. Article 10 of CB7 bylaws enumerates responsibilities and duties of Community Board 7 members, which specifically include attend all regularly scheduled monthly meetings of the board, attend all regularly scheduled meetings of standing and special committees to which the member has been assigned, vote on all matters presented to the board for a vote except where there is a conflict of interest as defined in Chapter 68 of the New York City Charter, and shall not speak publicly on behalf of the board unless duly authorized by the board or the chairperson. The special committee substantiates the first 4 allegations made against the respondent. The 5th allegation is not substantiated. Each and every one of those first 4 substantiated allegations individually in themselves constitutes sufficient cause for the removal of the respondent from the community board. The special committee unanimously recommends that Community Board 7 Queens vote to remove for cause respondent John Cho from membership in Community Board 7 Queens. Respectfully submitted this report myself, and like I said earlier, we were charged with a responsibility, and I respect my committee members for executing their responsibilities.
We have a motion on the floor, I need a second.
I second.
Okay. Now, everybody that's been waiting, this is the time to discuss the motion. Anybody, board members, comments?
I got a comment.
Go ahead.
Are we voting on all 4? What for? I mean, how's this voting?
The committee's report, which is all 4 charges substantiated.
However, any one is good enough.
But it's going to be a vote for all 4 of it, same thing. It's not going to be broken up
Even if you
individually.
feel that number 2 is not good,
Yeah, but I'm not on the borderline on one.
it doesn't matter, because any one of them is good enough.
Just points of information, any one of them is good enough or bad enough, no matter how you decide, but the motion is to remove the member from the board. That's the motion we're voting on, just that one motion.
I understand that the recommendation focuses on the meeting. Now, that's what the recommendation focuses on, attending all meetings.
No, it's speaking in charge of the board.
All the time.
No. It also said speaking in behalf of the board, without his permission.
Okay, but there was other charges there that I just wanted to be.
Well, that has to do with the baseball. That's what.
Right, now that's clear. That was clear.
Did you want to continue your statement? Okay. Board member, yes, Pablo. Oh, I'm sorry.
I have questions because I work very closely with Sean's organization, with my organization. So, is there any conflict of interest when I vote?
Because of your organization with John?
Yeah, we will work together closely with some projects, programs, or with the community.
No, should I know conflict of interest?
There's no conflict of interest, right? So
He's still staying on your organization unless your organization decides to take him off. You're only voting on his action at this board, for this board. Not what he does out. I don't care if he runs through all the red lights all over the city. That's not what we're voting on.
Yeah.
He's, okay?
Thank you.
So it shouldn't be a conflict, no. Larry, I defer to you. Is that somebody that?
I didn't.
Okay, she said that he sits on another board, or she sits on another board with John Cho. Would that be a conflict for her to vote on this tonight?
No financial gain.
I'm still not sure if I understand it.
She said John and her work on another board together. Can she vote tonight, or would that be a conflict if she votes because she's on another board with John, not the community board, another organization?
I don't see any connection between them.
That's what I said. I didn't see any connection. Okay.
Correction. My workplace work together with his organization. closely, okay?
Okay, what is your organization?
Charles Brown Community Health Center, and we work with
Charles Wang
Health Center.
Health Center, and what does that have to do with John Cho?
We do have some health events, work together, and.
Has a health events with his organization.
Chamber of Commerce. So it's no conflict, right? No.
Stop! Will you I'm talking to our lawyer guys first.
I don't hear any money going back
Right.
and forth.
So there's no money going back and forth. It's just that you deal with his organization.
I think one of the year we sponsored them for one of the events. So it's just
What's your position at Charles Wang?
my position, director of marketing.
Yeah, I don't think you're an officer of the corporation.
Okay. Thank you.
Does that sound?
Yeah, I don't hear any benefit that's accruing
Right. Okay.
to any of the individuals.
Just a second, Cody. Chuck had his hand, then Cody. Go ahead, Chuck.
Reverend and to others, the definition of cause is not defined in the charter. The definition of cause, if you look it up, is an action that takes place. And we brought up different charges, and you may say, item whatever, A, no one can use no 1, 2, 3, 4. Item A bothers me, but the others don't. Now, is that sufficient cause for you? Someone else might say, item A, that doesn't bother me at all, but I don't like B and C. Well, does that provide sufficient cause for you? At the end of the day, you're not voting on the 5 different items. What's in front of us is, and the recommendation is clear, to remove for cause. And that's how the charter is written, and that's how our bylaws are written. So was sufficient evidence provided tonight that you believe for cause he should be removed? And it's up to everybody here to make their determination on their definition of cause.
Cody.
I just want to clarify.
Hold on.
I have a copy of Grace's hand too.
Okay, just give me. You ready to go, or you want Chuck? Frank wants you to just clarify something.
I just want to clarify. We made a recommendation. You accepted that as a motion. That's fine by me.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead, Cody. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just think in regards to like allegation 1 specifically right now, we heard a lot of different interpretations of the city charter and that law, and I think we still need further clarification on that. Just as a board, wanted to note that. And yeah, there's so many files of paper here. I can probably say something again later.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry.
Using the plural. I don't need clarification.
Oh, let her finish, please.
No, it's cool. You can move on to someone else. I might come up with
Okay, very good. Board members, any other board members? Board members?
No.
Okay. Well, I'm going to say something. Okay. Go ahead, Jim.
What were you asking for?
This is the motion is the removal of John from the board. That's it. And the documentation is the presenting of the 5 categories. Only 4 that the committee said that they felt substantiated with. There was 5.
And I just want to clarify one thing.
Go ahead.
That Facebook page, taking the logo of the Community Board 7 and the title of Community Board 7, you guys never set up a page with that logo?
No.
Okay, just one.
Okay. And I've been chair since 2000. So it's 2021. So I've been 21 years as a chair. So I would be the one, and only the one, that would be authorizing that page. And then from 1990 to 1995, I was the chair. Then we had term limits at the time, and I didn't authorize it then either.
And any one of these...
It didn't exist.
Well, okay, yeah, right.
Substantiating any one of these allegations is cause for removal.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Okay. Well, let me... Go ahead, Cody.
Right. I guess this is a question too.
There's no more questions, statements.
But the motion is, sorry, I have it on my phone, is only in regards to the first 4 allegations, so it wouldn't be appropriate.
No, the motion is to remove John from the board. That's the motion.
Okay.
The documentation was given for of all of the cases, of the 5 cases, they felt only 4 of them was substantiated. They, because they were not physically there, couldn't take that as a substantiation. Doesn't mean I'm not giving up option 5. I haven't talked yet. So, you clear?
I guess in regards to option 5.
Okay.
It really does make me question all the allegations. I know I'm sitting here with this like pile of pamphlets that have been prepared. But again, I think the allegation number 4 that talks about defamation of the board, why are we just throwing that back onto another board member? By again saying John is corrupt, when we all very well know the definition of corruption, and we've seen that video of John speaking. I just feel like it is a little confusing and does feel inflammatory, and is again defamation, which we don't want to we don't want to speak bad about board members. We don't want to bully each other. And I really feel like clause number 5 is an example of just kind of putting that back onto a community board member, which we've talked so much today about not doing.
Okay. That's your opinion.
That is my opinion.
Good, thank you. Barbara, you have a comment? Okay. Any other board members? Because I'm going to be the last one, so I want to make sure that somebody doesn't get pulled out that I didn't see. Board members. Okay. One, I take this stuff that he puts out very serious, okay? Whether you think it's a joke and you laugh or not, I spend a lot of my time, board members, just so you understand. I protect your backs. Whether you like it or not, or whether you like my decisions or not, I protect your back. You have any time that you can call me up to ask me anything and work with me on anything, and I would do that with you. John did do that a few times. I did listen to him. By the way, one of the meetings he walked out of was I had the committee members put together, the board staff put together a package of papers because he asked questions about we didn't get bylaws and this and that. We had a public meeting. I had an addendum on the thing saying, please hang around for 15 minutes. Board members that remember that. I said, please stay there for 15 minutes. I want to go over that. John got up and walked out. Again, I'm in charge of this board as the chair. Whether I'm the chair or not, whoever the person is up here, it's disrespectful to not tell that person what you're doing. Now, if I'm busy holding a meeting, then they could go over and talk to Mary or Mary Z or Ann at the thing and say, look, I have to leave. Quite a few members have done that. They come up and they said, tell Gene I have to leave. I got something going on at home. I don't hit them with a whip. I don't beat them up the next day. I usually put on a thing that they had to leave in emergency. Okay? So I watch what everybody did. But I'm going to tell you this. Each and every one of you should be like me. If I stay to the end of the meeting, I expect everybody to be with me at the end of the meeting. One of the things I'm insulted with when I deal with these board members is that when they get up and walk out and the public participation is there. These people sat there and listened to us for 5 hours on some of the boringest stuff that we have to deal with, and they stayed there. And then I see people get up and walk out the door like these people don't count. That's part of your job as a community board member. That's what's getting me there. One of the things Mr. Cho did, just so you understand, is we had the chair of the government operations, Mr. Cabrera. When we got the authorization to buy the stuff that you're wearing, and I'm wearing, and he's wearing, he came to the meeting, we gave him a bag. Mr. Cho went out the door, into the hallway, and went on Facebook and took a pot shot at Board 7 saying, look at how we're giving away stuff. This is a... He did it during the meeting because I asked somebody who had a Facebook page and said, see what time that was. It was 8 o'clock. We were already in the meeting and he walked out the door. That's the arrogance of people that don't belong on our board. Okay? People deserve the same consideration when I sit at the meeting. I should listen to them. They should listen to us. And if I spend the time there, I expect all my board members to. I know I'm a harsh taskmaster, but everything when I go in the door, contrary to what I believe Mr. Cho believes, but I think Board 7 has a good reputation with the elected officials. They know where we come from. It's thought out information. And a lot of the younger people don't say anything. They listen to hear what's going on because we have a lot of experience. Like Terrence over there who's been in Flushing. He calls me up, I attend his meetings. We have Peter Chu calls me up, I attend his meetings. I try to attend every meeting. You only go to 1 meeting or 2 meetings. I go to 6 meetings. I go to meetings with the community board, I go to meetings with the borough president, and I represent you, whether you know it or not, but I represent you. I worry about College Point, I worry about East Flushing, I worry about Bayside, Bay Terrace, Bay Terrace, and I worry about all of them, okay? We don't take frivolous actions. And these statements like this, that day he made that statement, he could be bored. I almost leaped out of the chair and went down that table and strangled him because I was so mad. Okay? That's an insult to me. I have 21 years as a chair. There was a question, and I spoke to the borough president, and I told her that meeting, if you stayed there, you hold me to the borough president. I resent that statement he made. That was a completely bogus statement. The statement that he said that we're corrupt or we take money, she asked him, do you have any names? Do you have any? Nothing. And I'm going to tell you this, and Nick Corrado will tell you, and Kim Cody, who was in the PD, and Serge, who was in PD. It is our obligation as a public officer to report corruption or anything to the DOI. There's no getting around it. Otherwise, you're just as guilty of being in the fact. John never did that. He's telling you he talked about the FBI. You got to figure on that one.
Mr. Chair, may I say something?
Okay. Am I going to win it? I'll stop and I'll sit down. I know we're getting late, so yes, I will. Go ahead.
It's not getting there, it is late.
I stand corrected.
My son texted me, Dad, are you coming home for dinner?
Okay.
My 89 years old mother called me. Hey,
Okay.
son,
Okay.
have you gone home yet? I spent my 22 years in Community Board 7 meeting. I stayed up late many nights like this, like all of my Community Board members. And I take great pride to become being a Community Board 7 member. And I do take up my hat to Gene Kelty, Chuck Appellion, Frank Macchio, and Brother Peter too, and everyone as a Community Board 7 member. And I am proud to be a Community Board 7 member. And we intend to keep the Community Board 7 member honorable and respectful Community Board.
Okay. You're right. It's 10. I won't say anything else. I wrote the last thing. We'll go for the vote on the motion. The motion is to remove Board Member John Cho. Okay? We had a second on it. Chuck Appellion.
Yes.
Jim Savino.
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
John Cho.
No.
Kim Cody. Nick Corrado.
Yes.
Arlene Fleischman.
Yes.
Fred Prue.
Yes.
Doreen.
Yes.
Pablo.
Yes.
Cody.
No.
Jeff. Okay. Jeff, in case you couldn't hear, Jeff is at the alternate side. Got it, Jeff, thank you. Jeff says yes. Lawrence Hughes.
Yes.
Phil Coningsburg. Yes. Okay, Phil says yes. What is respirator on? Esther Lee. I'm sorry? Abstain, okay. Oh, yes. Is with or with conflict? Esther, is there a conflict? Is there a conflict? Is there a conflict that you're abstaining on? Okay, there's no conflict. Okay, so it's abstain, no conflict. Yes, you can. It goes in as a no vote.
Well, it doesn't count.
Okay. Wendy Lou.
Yes.
Frank Macchio.
Yes.
Betsy.
Yes.
Reverend McKeechin. Thank you. Barbara McHugh.
Yes.
Michelle Mayo.
Yes.
Selma.
Yes.
Serge.
Yes.
Millicent.
Yes.
John Park.
Yes.
Terrence.
Yes.
Yaakov.
Yes.
Frank.
Yes.
Chris.
Yes.
Paul Ruffino.
Yes.
Warren.
Yes.
Kevin.
Yes.
Matt.
Yes.
Josh.
Yes.
Joe Sweeney.
Yes.
John Savalas.
Yes.
Peter too.
Yes.
Harpreet.
No.
Clarissa.
Yes.
Maggie.
Yes.
Dion.
Yes.
Alina.
Yes.
Okay, and the board chair votes yes. Just give me. I'm sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, Stop, please.
The next one out.
Okay, hold on. 12, 14, 13, 79, 39, 1, 3 no's, and 1 abstention, which is a no. Okay, I have 39 in favor of removing John. I have 3 no votes not to remove John, and I have 1 abstention, no conflict, which is a no vote, so that would be 4. So the motion carries.
Point of clarification.
Go ahead.
It is not a no vote, it just doesn't count in the tally. The majority
Okay.
stays as an abstention.
Okay, fine. So 39 in favor, 3 no votes. The motion carries to remove Board Member Cho. We'll send a letter up to the borough presidents tomorrow telling what Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Thank you for being patient. Thank you very much. Excuse me, stop yelling in the church, please. Thank you, everybody. Bill, Jack, thank you very much for being in that site. Tell Ann to shut down everything. Thank you. Thank you.
You don't say hello to me?
Oh, I didn't see you.
Terrence.
Work together. That's the way you should be. Look at me. Look at me. That's the way you should be.